Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If with another fanfiction. This is the move of what if Deku was given the power to destroy. All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. Timon. Itchy. Gasping. That's what the little boy was feeling, looking down at the powder on his gloved hands. What? He thought. His little hands free of the gloves, he was scared and itchy. He didn't know where he was going, only that the bad men were gone. The little black and azure-haired boy ambled along in his white pajamas, scratching at his number in thought. His red eyes staring at the path ahead impassively. A lot of people talked to him, but he hid behind things and stayed quiet. He didn't want to draw attention to himself. He wasn't watching where he was going and slammed into a tall, skinny man wrapped in a big coat 5 sizes too big for him, wild blonde hair billowing in the wind. He tumbled and the man caught him. "Whoa there, are you okay, young man?" he asked. Let go of me. I'll hurt you," the boy squeaked, thrashing a little bit. The man, Toshinori Yagi, held onto the kid, letting him down and looking at him closer. Most of the number on the boy's neck was mostly scratched red, so it couldn't be red. "Calm down, kid." He sighed. "Do you remember where your parents are?" "No. I don't." The little boy sniffed. "The bad men. They were gonna use me." "What bad men?" Toshinori asked. "The bad men in the white coats," the boy sniffed. "Called me Tenko." Toshinori recognized the name. He looked at the boy's mottled black and azure hair with red eyes peeking through the bangs. Tenko? Toshinori mumbled. "You know my family?" Tenko asked, his little red eyes looking up at the strange man. He nodded happily. "Your grandmother asked me to take care of you, Tenko. I'm Toshinori," he said, kneeling and ruffling the kid's hair. Toshinori and Tenko walked together. The little boy hid behind him, clenching his coat with one pinky up. "Toshinori, are you sure that's the kid?" A short old man with it slicked up in a small pompadour asked. "He's been missing for years. Look, Torino, this is my chance to raise a vessel strong enough to take one for all," Toshinori said, smiling and making Torino sigh. "What? And they say I lost my marbles? How do we know it's not just some random kid?" He looked at Tenko, who looked back with a smile. The little kid stood up and scurried over to Toshinori on thin legs, hiding behind him. "Who's that, Mr. Toshi?" Tenko asked. "An old friend of mine, Gran Torino," Toshinori mouthed, "play along," at the older man. He huffed and tried to crack a rusty smile at the odd flaky kid that itched at his neck. Tenko peeked out and smiled. "What's your quirk, Grandpa?" he asked. "Mine hurts people and makes me itchy." He sighed a little bit. Torino blinked and noticed that he always had his pinkies up. Torino had never seen a quirk similar to it, except for the ash incident that took out the Shimura family. Something about this kid didn't line up with what happened. The Shimura's boy would be a teen by now, but this one's little. He thought and lifted his foot to show off his jets. "I speed around with these, kid," he said. "What does yours do?" he asked. "Makes people into ashes." "I'm scared of it," Tenko admitted. "The bad men wanted me to hurt other people." Torino sighed and set his hand on the kid's shoulder. "Kid, what was with them?" he asked. Tenko looked up at the old man with a scared expression. "They had white coats and kept stabbing me with needles. I hated it, so I made them gone. They were bad and I didn't like them," Tenko mumbled, tears in his eyes. "I started flaking and I touched one of them. They were screaming. It scared me, so I ran." He started to cry. "It was scary and it made me itchy." He sniffled, gripping his guardian's leg. "I didn't." He broke down and Toshinori scooped him up, hugging him. "Nana would have wanted it, Sorahiko," he said. Toshinori carried Tenko to his room. It was an old guest room that he was converting into a new room for the little guy. Tenko scooched into bed and saw a small box on the nightstand. "Mr. Toshi? What's that?" he asked. "Your new gloves. You keep on having to raise your pinkies, and I found these," he said, opening the box and making the little guy gasp. Toshinori slid them on his hands and Tenko touched the nightstand with all 5 fingers. Not a single bit of it became ash. His pillow? Nope. His blankets? Nope. Not a single thing fell apart. Toshinori smiled at the kid's expression. Whoa. He breathed. I can touch things. Thank you. Toshinori grinned and ruffled his hair gently. You're welcome, Tenko, he said, going to get up but feeling 2 tiny hands grab his hand. A fearful set of red eyes stared into his own blue eyes, his little hands gripping tighter. Can you stay, Mr. Toshi? What if the bad men try to find me again? Tenko gasped. I don't want him to find me. Toshinori sighed and smiled. It's all right, do you want to know why? He asked. Why? Tenko asked, tilting his head to the side. All of the sudden, Toshinori inflated into all might, making Tenko gasp. You're all might? And away, he yelled. I used to read comic books of yours. I like the pictures, he mumbled, looking down. Toshinori coughed and deflated. Because I am here, Tenko. No bad men in white coats are going to get you, not if I'm still kicking, he said, patting him on the head, making Tenko smile up at him. Toshinori got up and left the door open and the hallway light on for the little guy. He could get used to this. Toshinori knew that his new charge needed to go to school, even though he'd preferred to stay with him at all times. He knew that Tenko needed to be friends with some kids his own age. Even though the kid was shy and didn't like to be too close to anyone other than him. Remember, Tenko, you're my nephew that's living with me, okay? He asked, kneeling and ruffling his azure and black curls. But I don't like it, he sighed, fiddling with his little smock and All Might hoodie. You're a lot like a dad, and the name thingy sounds weird, Himura? Toshinori hit his cute attack well, but being called dad sounded a little weird, but with his skin and bones form he'd just coast on by without drawing much attention. What do you want to be then? He asked. Your son, Tenko exclaimed, fists clenched and smile wide. I want to have a dad, and a mom, and I want to be a hero too. I want to help people and not be scared of my quirk anymore. Toshinori knew at that moment that Tenko was a pretty strong candidate. He'd just have to wait, but he liked the ring of Tenko Yagi. It just rolled off the tongue so well. He held Tenko's hand until they got to the classroom, with him hiding behind his leg. Tenko, it's all right. I'll be back later, Toshinori said. Nah, I'm not leaving. Tenko pouted. The number 1 hero sighed deeply and looked down at his son. Or whatever he is. Tenko buried his face into Toshinori's breathed leg. There was another pair, a mother and a little girl. Come now, it's time to go, the woman sighed, rubbing her temples. Her patience is tested in front of the 2 others. Her hair was long kudzu vines done in layers, small thorny ones wound around her arms gently. The girl was shaking, crying, and rubbing her face into her mother's dress. But I don't want to, Mama, the little girl whined, her mother making eye contact with Toshinori. He smiled a little bit, Tenko peeking out at the little girl. His little cracked lips curled into a smile. Toshinori nudged him a little. Tenko scuttled over to the girl. Are you... These are hair vines, he squeaked, cheeks red and his eyes darting down to his little hoodie strings, messing with them. Ibra peeked at him and a few of her vines went out to mess with him a little. They wound around his arm and he smiled. Oh? He breathed, pretty? At this point, Ibra clung to him now. The pair went into the classroom together, with Tenko assaulted on all sides with, oh, and kissing. Tenko shuddered and sat with the other students. Their teacher was a nice woman, looking at him with a kind smile. What your name? She asked. Tenko. He mumbled, Tenko. Yagi. A lot of the other kids looked right at his gloves, particularly an ash-blonde kid and a green-haired one. He had lighter green hair than Ibra's deep shade. Hey new kid. What's your quirk? The ash-blonde-haired kid barked. It better be as cool as mine, otherwise you're but as Landon in the dumpster behind the school. Katsuki-kun. That's no way to treat a new student, the teacher harped. Also, asking others to show their quirks off isn't nice when you threaten them. Ibra nodded in support of the teacher. Also, language, she snapped. Once the circle broke up, Katsuki tracked the pair down, about to play blocks with his green-haired friend. while Ibra wanted to play house with Tenko. What are you, new guy? Quirkless? Katsuki asked, his red eyes glaring into Tenko's brighter ones, shaded by his hair. I don't like my quirk, he admitted. Katsuki smiled, and the green-haired boy beside him was holding him back with a small green light. Kaken. Tenko alone, the boy snapped. Simon Izuku, you, me, and that chick clinging onto him are the only ones in class that have our quirks so far. I just don't want a quirkless coming in here and being a stupid lil Deku, he snapped. So are ya? He wondered. Tenko felt one of his gloves get snatched away and he flew into a panic. Hey, give it. Give it back, he yelped, getting held back by Katsuki's hand on his face. Ibra wrapped a vine around Katsuki and pushed him away, another grabbing the glove and putting it back on Tenko's hand. Katsuki noticed that his shirt was a little frayed from when Tenko's hand brushed against it in an effort to get his glove back. Izuku gasped and scooched forward. The little boy was fascinated by Tenko's quirk. Tenko didn't look at him, concerning himself with his wife Ibra. Honey, can you help me with dinner? She asked. Tenko shyly nodded and pretended to cook, humming shakily. He was still shy, but judging by Ibra's smile she was having fun. But something still kept him back from really enjoying it. What would they all think of his quirk? What would she think of it? Ibra turned to him and passed a baby doll his way. He fumbled with it, trying to hold it correctly. He finally got the hang of it, with Ibra scooching over next to him, smiling and laying against his shoulder. He has your eyes, dear, she sighed. He looked down at the baby doll, and with a shakily constructed grin. Alright, he mumbled. Ibra looked him in the eyes. Hearing that tone felt off. What's wrong, Tenko? She asked. Just what Katsuki wanted. I can't do it, he sighed. I can't show off my quirk. It's not nice. Ibra sighed, and a few of her vines shifted his hair aside. He kept his hand on his neck. Still, it's not right for Katsuki to force you like that. It's a gift. Your gift. It's just special for you, right? She asked. Tenko remembered tearing through the white coats by accident. He was scared and brought the building to a screeching halt. It isn't, it's not good. If I don't wear my gloves and I touch something with all my fingers, all 5 of them, it hurts people and I get all dusty, Tenko explained. Ibra smiled and patted him on the head. Soon after there was a lot of learning to do, with Tenko finally learning that he had 10 fingers, and that there'd be 4 seasons. He and Ibra stayed side by side. Most of the others made kissy noises at them and made Tenko want to get back into his hoodie. Recess was lonely, with most of the other kids other than Ibra, Izuku, and Katsuki refusing to interact with Tenko. He had a piece of garbage in one of his gloved hands and the other 3 watched him. Okay, here we go, he mumbled, taking off his other glove, and it broke into ash, making Izuku and Katsuki gasp and Ibra to shiver just a little bit. Tenko noticed and pulled his glove back on with a blush on his cheeks. I know it's scary, he sighed. I know that it's not good there. Are you kidding? It'll be an amazing rescue quirk. You can disintegrate things. Izuku yelled. I mean, isn't it cool, Ibra? He asked the girl. She smiled a little bit and Tenko felt warm. He liked Izuku and Ibra, but he didn't appreciate Katsuki too much. It's not as cool as mine though. He pouted. Yours is to make explosions, Ibra said. So? Katsuki asked. It's much faster than Tenko's quirk at hurting people, she sighed. He doesn't want to hurt anyone. Well, why do you want to be when you're older? I'm gonna be the #1 hero. And Izuku here's gonna be my sidekick, Katsuki exclaimed. I want to be a hero like my dad. He's a cool hero, Tenko admitted, even with my bad thing. Wait, who's your dad? Izuku asked. Is he a hero like All Might? He gasped. Tenko smiled and nodded. Izuku had stars in his eyes and started to float a little bit, a green aura around him, lifting him up. He's really skinny but really nice too. He's been training me for something big. Both him and my grandpa, Tenko exclaimed. I mean, we just started, and it's a little tough, but I can handle it. The group smiled. You know what? No matter what happens to us, can we all be heroes together? Tenko blurted. I know we just met and all that, but I want to be friends. Izuku and Ibara smiled and nodded, with Katsuki scoffing but with a bit of a smirk. Tenko grinned and put his hands in his pockets with the grin still on his face. Then after recess was nap time, with Ibara scooching close to Tenko, curling up with him and smiling calmly, not afraid of him or his quirk. Sorahiko came to pick Tenko up and found him talking excitedly to a green-haired boy and a vine-haired girl, pumping his tiny fists and grinning. He raised his eyebrow at that, walking up to him. "Having fun, Tenko?" he asked, seeing him hug the girl tightly and smile. "I have a wife now," Tenko chirped. Sorahiko blinked. He smiled, looking at the girl's heavily blushing cheeks. The green-haired boy smiled. How'd that happen, Tenko?" Sorahiko ventured. "We played house together, and she cuddled with me during nap time." "That's what people do, right, Grandpa?" Tenko asked. The old hero chuckled and walked alongside the boy with a warmish smile. "That's not it, Tenko. It's a process, just like how you're training," he stated, making the little azure and black-haired boy sigh and cross his arms. He was a strong-willed kid, that's for certain. Even when he was training. Sorahiko took him to the beach. This one was filled up to the brim with trash and other debris from the ocean. Dagoba Public Beach used to be popular even back in his days. He turned to his newest student. "All right, Tenko. This is your training for the next few years. You have to move every bit of trash off this beach and into this dumpster. No quirk. On top of that, I'll be training you in close combat. Toshinori is too busy to train you right now. No rest until I say so. You're going to be a prime vessel by the end of this." Gran Torino thundered, dropping the seriousness for a moment. "Also, have you seen the key to Toshinori's apartment?" he asked. Tenko was already lifting things, looking a little unamused by his grandpa's joke. Sorahiko huffed and watched the boy lifting smaller stuff, straining a little bit. "He's quite strong for a tyke, but why does he refuse to get a haircut? Not only that, but if Tenko is who Toshinori thinks he'd be in his teens at least, not 5, he thought, seeing him trying to drag a fridge. Tenko snarled, "That's my first big piece." Sorahiko sighed and landed on the ground. Seeing Tenko on the ground soaked in sweat and gasping, he knelt. "Get up, Tenko. Pick up the smaller pieces first." "You're trying too hard," Sorahiko sighed, seeing the edge of a number on his neck. Tenko scrambled back up. "It's nothing. I almost got it," he snapped. "Come on. You stupid jalopy fridge." Sorahiko huffed and grinned. "It's about that girl, isn't it?" he asked, earning a hand-covered groan from the little boy. He was completely red-faced. "So what if Ibara's pretty? I made a promise to her and my friends to become a hero." Tenko snapped. "If I can't be strong without my quirk, then what kind of strength is that?" Sorahiko saw the same determination from his old friend shine through his new student. Tenko took out a small vine and tied his hair back with it. "I don't care about what I am or who I look like. If my quirk can help people, if I'm the right man in the wrong place, then what kind of hero would I be?" Tenko mumbled. His number was scuffed from all the scratching, but Sorahiko recognized the number. "That's partly the other Tenko's birthday, and the other number is Toshinori's," he thought. "Does that mean the numbers between are the years it took to make him?" Tenko grabbed the rope and started to pull as hard as he could. He started to slowly drag it behind him, straining and snarling. "I gotta do this. I gotta become a hero. I gotta become stronger. So, keep going. I gotta find the truth." Tenko finally dragged it all the way to the bin, his muscles on fire. Tenko fell to his knees, gasping and huffing, remembering exactly what he was going to do. "I need to know why I'm here," he thought. "Getting stronger by being a hero is the best way." Sorahiko sat next to the kid with an impressed smile. "You got tenacity, kid. You just need to temper it," he said. "Good job today, kiddo." Tenko smiled and laid back to look up at the sky. Sorahiko was still curious and wary about this kid. He remembered Toshinori telling him the news. "Torino, I know you might not like it, but as it stands, raising a successor from the ground up seems like the best course of action," Toshinori said after putting Tenko to bed a few weeks before. "Are you sure he's even the right pick?" Sorahiko asked. "I mean, yeah, he's just a kid, but what if he gets messed up later?" I don't think he will if I play my cards right, Toshinori determined. You know how Nana put it, you don't know until you try, so I'm going to try. It's a gamble? Sorahiko sighed deeply. Wasn't the surgery that saved me a gamble too? Toshinori asked. Sorahiko nodded gently and sighed. Still, something about this doesn't feel right, Sorahiko sighed gently. He sighed and got up. Just be careful, Toshinori. I will, Sorahiko, Toshinori said. That. Ha. I gasped. My body was burning and my eyes were watering. I was working really hard for this. Ever since Dad told me about his power, I've been training hard to be worthy of it. Of course, Grandpa never pulled any punches. I stood calmly, listening for anything that'd give me hints to where he's coming from. I dodged a spray of jets and he blasted past me. I still stayed calm and resolute. If I didn't pin him or outlast him, I wouldn't be worthy of Dad's power. So I had to wait. I listened for anything that'd give Grandpa away. FWWWWSSS. I kicked out and got him. He fell onto the sand and I lifted my BLNDFLD with a smile. Well, I'll be med. You really did improve, Tenko, Grandpa stated. Using your ears instead of your eyes, you're gonna be something else one day. Maybe those muscles of yours will impress that girl you like. What was her name again? Izuku? No, that's not it. Grandpa mumbled. Was it Katsuki? No, that's not it. It's Iba, Grandpa, I corrected, grinning. So, do you think I'm ready for one for all yet? Grandpa whacked me on the head a little bit. No, you're still too immature, Tenko. This isn't a power like any other quirk. Not even yours. We still don't know if where you came from did anything weird to you. He sighed. Still, it's not as special as you think it is. Not as special? Yeah, it is weird, but I thought, maybe I'm just making it sound bigger to make my achievement better. Your quirk destroys things you touch, as you are now, adding that to you may spell the end of the country as we know it. You may be strong, Tenko Yagi, but you're far from perfect, he huffed. I sighed and nodded. And so, your conditioning is complete. I'm sorry about Toshinori not being around to teach you himself, but I'm pretty sure that Lummox would rush things along. He's getting pretty desperate. Grandpa laughed heartily. In the early days of my training, I thought he didn't like me so much, but now I knew he cared about me. He pulled out a small plastic box and handed it to me. It was a box of taiyaki and I gasped. No way. I grinned and picked one up with my index and thumb, eating it quickly. Grandpa smiled. Now, save some for me, he chided. I know you pushed yourself hard today, but I only brought enough for the two of us. We sat together on the sand and ate, making sure none of the sand got into anything. I was happily done with training. Now, it's up to you to maintain that motivation and fire you have. I threw a rope down to you, but now you gotta run it yourself. The torch will be yours to pass on, he said. Right? I'll do my best, I exclaimed, getting a text. I pulled out my phone and saw a text from Ibra. Her mother finally let her get a phone. I smiled and pocketed it. I knew that Dad would probably be home when I got home too. So here I was, walking along and scratching my number. I was texting Ibra with my other hand. I wore gloves, of course, with my index and thumb exposed. Ibra was excitedly texting me about her art and paintings. I texted back with how my training was going, how tired I was, too. I didn't always like it, but I needed to keep up the condition I was in. I felt my hair tie loosen and I felt a kiss on my cheek. I saw Ibra next to me, holding my shoulders and smiling at me. Oh, hey Ibra. I mumbled. She looked so pretty in her dress and shawl. She kissed me on the cheek again. She was really pretty. Her hair was long and her eyes were a pretty shade of forest green. Ibra was appealing. She was really appealing. Ibra and I were inseparable since kindergarten, and since it was the weekend, I didn't expect Katsuki and Izuku to be with her. Eden, stop macking on Krusty Boy. You don't know where he's fucking been. Katsuki snapped. For all you know, he could have been in the trash looking like the hobo he is. For the last time, Katsuki, my Tenko is not a hobo. He just got back from some very intensive training with his grandfather, Ibra stated, with Katsuki snarling and growling, a green aura around him. Kaken, why you know how Tenko gets when you snap at him like that? Izuku's hair was a lighter shade of green, earning a off, Deku. I sighed and blushed a little bit. Did Ibra just call me her Tenko? Like hers isn't together? My face was brightening, imagining what was under that dress and shawl rather regrettably. Dad taught me never to pry or peek about a lady. Only villains and deprived people do that. Plus, I don't know how she really feels about me. What if she breaks up with me? Still, becoming the next user of One for All, it would make it no place for a relationship. The guys looked at us and I tried to regain my focus. Ibra just led me along, my thoughts still spinning about the subject of having a completely new quirk. I didn't know what it'd do to me or my quirk. Ibra was always keeping me calm and focused. Still, I needed to remember my center. Just like Grandpa's exercises with the BLNDFLD and trying to catch him. He did the same for my ears and my hands. I needed to learn to fight without thinking. Instinct. That's what I needed to learn. Dad handled the basic fighting and exercise while Grandpa handled the technique. My mind wandered off into the weeds as Ibra's warm voice became muffled by my own fears of the challenges ahead. What if I'm not strong enough? What if I fail? What if I hurt Ibra by accident? What if my gloves give out? I started to scratch, feeling soothed by the feeling of the number on my neck. Tenko? What if I hurt Dad or Grandpa? What if I hurt Izuku and Katsuki? More scratching, a small whining cry bubbled in my throat, still scared of something that hasn't even happened yet. I continued to scratch. Tenko, I might fail. I might get hurt. I don't know. I was scratching full tilt now, whining and miming quietly, trying to not make a scene but failing miserably. I needed to find a way to make it all stop. I needed to... Tenko! Dear, you're scratching yourself again? Ibra sighed, touching my neck gently, looking concerned. I know that's a dreadful habit. Please don't hurt yourself, she pleaded a little. Oh, I mumbled, taking a deep breath to try calming down. She grabbed my hand and I noticed that she always looked concerned. Whenever I let my mind wander, she'd wrap a vine around my wrist or tap me just to snap me out of it. We hung out so much that she knew all my tics and fidgets. Scratching, nail-biting, and fidgeting with my hands. She'd sleep over sometimes, with Dad finding it the most adorable thing because she'd end up cuddling me like a plushie. The class at our school saw us as a couple, and I guess you could say that. She smiled a little bit, her lips brushing against my cheek. I pulled my hood up and hid under it, nervously fidgeting and sputtering. Tenko, you do know I love you, right? Ibra asked, raising her eyebrow. I peeked out of my hood at her. I looked away and sighed. Why? I asked. Because. You're my best friend, she said. Your quirk can be something more than it is. I do believe that you're a blessing. Huh. I blurted. As you may have guessed, I am quite religious, she stated. I remembered all the times she prayed at the table before meals to the point of tears sometimes. She smiled sadly at me, grabbing my hand. Even if you're scared of it doesn't mean you can't overcome it. You never noticed that I was watching you, being your guardian angel as much as you were mine, she said, seeing your fears, what you like and dislike, seeing you, so lost. Oh, I murmured, well, I wanted to scratch at my neck again, but her vines held me back from doing that. I sighed and Ibra looped her arm around my shoulders. We just walked together, with her holding me close. She took me to somewhere in the park, sitting under a tree together with my head in her lap, feeling her hand gently petting my hair. She had a bag with her and I was calming down from my mini panic attack. No matter what happens, dear, even if you're scared, you know you can always cast your cares on me, she said. I know it doesn't sound right, but I want to help. I breathed. I don't know what I am, I admitted. One day I just escaped from somewhere and ran into my dad. I see, so you really are lost, she stated. You feel as though you know that a missing piece of you is out there? I smiled. You always know what I'm thinking. Are you sure you don't have a secondary quirk? I wondered. Ibra smiled down at me with a wink. You're really going to make me tell you? She asked. Did you already forget, my love? How much are you in love with me? I mumbled. As much as I like you, I need to know first. Ibra giggled a little bit and touched my cheek. I love you, even if you're crusty, she said. Did you realize it when you played house with me or something? I wondered. Ibra grinned. She seemed a lot more relaxed than before. Someone has to take care of the heroes back at home, she said, but I want to become a hero with you, so we'll be a heroic couple together, you dash. I am here, Dad roared, slamming down from out of nowhere, bulging muscles and smiling face all etched from comicdom, his blue eyes shining as Ibra glared at him, hair writhing. Do you mind, All Might? I am trying to bolster Tenko's morale, she sighed, but I suppose this is about what's making him so stressed. Dad flinched. Ouch. Seriously? Do your words have to sting as much as your thorns, Miss Shiozaki? He asked. Of course, coming out of nowhere scared her. Dad? I huffed. What is it? He looked grim, but he still smiled. I stood and walked over to him, with him taking me further into the woods to power down to his thinned form, bony and sick-looking. I didn't like seeing it. I never did. He smiled and put his hand on my shoulder. Your grandfather told me your conditioning is complete. Nice job, Tenko, he exclaimed. I looked down at my feet and sighed. Isn't decay enough? I asked. Are you okay? He asked. Tenko, I fully intended to give one for all to you. Why? Why not? Why not Ibra or Izuku, or even Katsuki? I'm terrified of my own quirk. I'm terrified of finding the truth about me. I sniffled. I'm too scared to even hold my girlfriend's hand without my gloves. How can a guy like me ever be a hero? Dad grabbed my shoulders. Son, look at me, he ordered. I looked up at him. It doesn't matter if there's someone better. I choose you to be my successor. No one else. You still have a long way to go, and not everything is going to be laid out in front of you, but I know, Tenko Shimura. I know you can be a hero regardless of how evil or villainous your quirk is, he said. So, he said, powering up and plucking a strand of hair from his head, with a bright smile he held it out to me. Eat this. I sighed and sat up, not feeling any different from eating that stupid hair. I knew it wouldn't do much to help, but judging by my dad's grin when I got out to the kitchen, he seemed to be in a good mood. Today's the day, son. You feel any stronger? He asked. No. I don't, I sighed, just as itchy and flaky. Dad smiled and sat down across from me, watching me eat like usual. I just ate blithely with no emotion. I didn't feel any different, but I'd know how it'd work soon enough. All I needed to do was trust that I didn't mess up. Basically, the exam was to destroy villain robots marked with points. 1, 2, and 3 pointers. I was nervous, my hands clenched into fists and my hair tied back by Ibra's vine. I needed to do my best. Grandpa and Dad tried their damnedest to get me to this point. I took a deep breath and focused. All the others don't matter, it's just me and the bots. I took off my glove on my right hand, my DMNT arm. I smiled and my voice became raspy, scaring the others around me. Now then, let's go, I purred. Wait, where'd that come from? I thought. The alarm went off and it was complete chaos in there. I skirted around the crush and came around the corner to see some of the bigger bots engaging the more skilled hopefuls. I hope they don't mind me scavenging. I thought, gotta get points somehow. I snuck around, some of the bots' leftovers were wandering 2-pointers and some 3s. I darted towards them like a madman, grabbing one of their joints and riding it like a rodeo bull. Whoa 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 whoa. I irped. I'm gonna pew. I yelled, clambering up from the arm and grabbing the head. SSSF. The head tarnished and flecked away, the arms slackening aside from the one I decayed before. I landed on the ground and kicked it jokingly, seeing another screaming towards me, slamming me into the pavement, and all I felt was pain, my hand grabbing onto the thick plating and making the wrist joint flake away, letting me go with a bruised side and a rain of blood making me close one of my eyes. I started to run towards the others, passing by a girl nervously speaking to a tiny mushroom. She was small and had brown hair, and a 3-pointer had her in its sights. She was still trying to make the little fungi grow by encouraging it. Come on, grow for mommy, she snapped at it, spritzing it with a spray bottle. Eep, she yelled, running away from the 3-pointer and towards me. I saw her eyes through her hair. They looked like sure-take mushrooms. I smiled and used my other hand to shove her behind me. Watch and learn, shirk. I snapped, before a large mushroom slammed into the robot with a vengeance, somehow boosted by my decay surrounding my right hand. I pushed Shirtake with my left. You were saying? She asked, and my name is Kikono, and my shroomtastic baby just saved you and netted me some points? Not fair, you were about to be mycelium. Also, baby? Shroomtastic? Oh boy. I sighed. Look, I'm just gonna leave. I ran off before she could say much. Ibra would kill me if I was around another girl. I then ran into another kid. This one was Steel and was punching the CRP out of one of the bots. He looked up at me and I ran right on by him. I ran and ran, my eyes focused on my goal. Surmount your doubt, Tenko. Do it? I thought, running right for a group of three-pointers that split up to take me on. I felt a flaking sensation on my hand, then I took to the air, my white tracksuit jacket billowing behind me like a cape. My black shirt and white sweatpants made Dad reminisce about his old Mster. Something broke within me, a tide and surge of power broke the levee. I felt someone or something lift me, and I had my hand out in a claw. Speeding right towards the monstrous robots, my voice rising into a mighty roar. Sma-eh-asja. I roared, ripping through the robot and seeing an explosion of decay spread to the other two. My arm felt numb and I was headed right for the ground, but I was floating peacefully midair, sparking with purple energy, feeling it thrum through my body, and I slowly descended. I landed on my feet and my legs gave out, my arm shooting blood and feeling like it was stabbed with a billion rusty knives. The trio of three-pointers were monoliths of rust and slowly flecking away in the wind. In the light, I saw the hem of a white cape for a brief second. I stood on shaky legs, tears rolling down my cheeks. It hurt, but I felt at that moment, floating there for just a second, I felt someone holding me. It felt so familiar, but I knew the memories weren't mine. I looked down at my slashed-up arm and I could barely move it. My head swam and my eyes drooped. I almost fell, but someone caught me. Looking up, I saw shocked green eyes. Feeling vines wrap around me gently. It's okay, you're bleeding but you're okay. Ibra sighed. Just stay with me, okay? Stop worrying about me. Is everyone okay? I used my decay, but I am. That packed a serious wallop. I hissed. Who? Help me down. I thought there was no such thing as ghosts. Ibra started to sniffle. Your arm is. She sniffled, her vines making an impromptu tourniquet without the thorns. I reached up with my gloved hand and dried her tears, smiling. I won, didn't I? The orange was on my side this time. I sighed. Ibra helped me up and I leaned against her. My decay wasn't working right now. When I'm tired it doesn't work. Or if I can't move my hands. I passed out somewhere halfway, with Ibra still holding me close, tears in her eyes. I didn't know why she was crying. Why would she cry for a manufactured copy? I failed. My big moment ended with me getting injured. What a stupid joke. I looked down at my bandaged arm, waiting for Dad to get home. Ibra insisted on coming with me after to make sure I was doing okay. She was so worried about me that it kind of made me question having her so close by. Especially since One for All was a closely guarded secret only known to me, Grandpa, Miss Shizenji, and the rest of the staff of UA outside of Dad. Ibra would have to keep it a secret. A really close secret. Are you doing okay, dear? She asked, leaning in the doorframe to look in at me with a warm smile. Yeah. Miss Shizenji said my arm should be okay in a bit. I sighed, yawning a little. I'm just really sleepy. My eyelids drooped and I curled into the pillow and blanket's warmth. Hearing the bed creak a little and feeling Ibra curl around me. Have a good sleep, dear. She murmured. I was used to having her with me. She understood my haphophobia and she knew I didn't want to touch her without my gloves. I fell deeper into sleep. I woke up in a weird void, flecking purple energy coursing around me. It felt like I was floating in water, kicking and treading the weird dream water. I looked around and saw nothing else, until everything exploded into a rain of bright colors below me, like meteors dancing through the air. They fell and fell. They exploded on the surface in bright flares of light, one of which formed into another person. The light became steady and I was out of the water. The person was a woman, white cape billowing behind her and dark eyes shining with the light of the other stars and shining in the sky. So, you're Toshi's successor? I gotta say you kind of feel familiar, she said. Still, nice job even if I had to help out. She was grinning and ruffling my hair, the feeling being even more familiar the more she did it. I'm Tenko, I stammered, my voice squeaking a little because I was nervous. She smiled and nodded. Sounds like a good name. I'm Nana, I'm kinda the previous holder before Toshi, she explained. You got to use it for the first time today? I nodded. It's pretty strong, I admitted. That's 'cause it boosted your decay. You're gonna have one hell of a time, Tenko, she exclaimed. Plus, your girlfriend is pretty cute. I gawked at her. You can see things outside of here? I asked. Yeah. I can't directly interfere except when I'm needed, kinda like that one scene in BoJack Unbound, she said. I nodded and she knelt. No matter what, Tenko, you gotta keep going. Not everything is gonna be perfect, but everything's gonna be okay, she said. Slowly, the stars winked out and she smiled at me. It's gonna be tough, but... She started to fade away into a tiny pinkish star. Settling in my hands, I smiled. It's gonna be alright. I closed my hands around the ember of pink and slowly woke back up, the moonlight shining through my window and eyebrow was gone. I sat up and noticed that my bandage was changed, with a new vine wrapped around my wrist. My hair tie was absolutely disintegrated by the power of One for All boosting my decay. I tied my hair back, feeling it tighten, and I shuffled out of bed, my eyes crusty with sleep. I opened the door and shuffled out. I saw Dad sitting on the couch and waiting for me. Hey, sleep well? He asked. Yeah. I mumbled, sitting down next to him. He smiled. So, how'd it feel? He asked. Felt more like a slash or a sheen? I dunno, but it was awesome, I exclaimed. I could go without my arm getting torn up, but I guess that's the price of the power. Dad nodded. You gotta break it in, kiddo. The time had come for me to get started on breaking in that power. I pulled on my gloves and looked in the mirror, a little excited but also nervous. I wanted to do my best, but depending on the class I was a part of, either I'd get blown up or smothered to death. Dad left it as a surprise, but I needed to stay calm. As much as I wasn't looking forward to it, the minute I realized which class it was, I was somewhat relieved. UA loomed overhead, casting a huge shadow over me. I clenched my hands into fists, feeling the ever-present thrumming of One for All and the flaking feeling of decay. The pressure was on. What I do now, it reflects on what my future role as a hero is. I walked through the hallways, dodging glances and trying not to rock the boat. Too bad my quirk activates when I'm nervous. So that I started as a student of Class 1B by disintegrating the door by complete accident. Making a mess of things. Oops. I mumbled, I didn't mean to. I shuffled in and almost ran smack into another girl. This one had long ginger hair and teal eyes, smiling and dodging my embarrassed shuffle. Whoa. You okay? She asked. Man, I've never seen a quirk like that before. Thanks. I whispered, scuttling to my desk or trying to. I didn't see anyone familiar and didn't exactly want to be familiar with anyone right now. Especially since I destroyed the door by accident. Wait a sec, so, that ashy thing you did with your hands is your quirk? She asked. Yes, now if you'll excuse me, I need to sit down, I stated, sitting down at my desk, not bothering to learn any names. PSSS. Something hit me on the back of the neck. PSSSSSSS. Another something tried to, but I caught it and looked at it. It was a mushroom. I turned and saw Kihono there, or as I'd like to call her, Shirtake. She smiled and waved a little bit at me. I waved back only out of courtesy. I wouldn't exactly call her a friend. Then, coming through the now open door was Ibra. She and I locked eyes and she looked at the ash on my shoulders, sighing like a long-suffering parent. She hustled over and dusted my shoulders off. Already showing off your quirk, I see, she said. Not intentionally. I snapped, not intentionally at all. Ibra hugged me and I barely had any time to react. The others all stared at us as I heard Ibra muttering something. It was a prayer about something I could barely hear because she was huddling me against her chest. Are you two together? The friendly girl from earlier asked. Why yes, we are, Ibra said. I finally came up for air. Gasping and huffing, seeing another kid, a blonde-haired boy with blue eyes laughing his butt off. Oh wow. Already together? What, were you two childhood friends or something? Baha. I mean, come on. I'll give you guys a week, no, 3 days to see if you two are together by the end, he cackled. I growled, my desk cracking and snapping a little bit. All right, everyone. Settle down, a new voice boomed, with all of us getting in our chairs. A man in a red jumpsuit, tall and white-haired. His serious eyes were narrow and his underbite reminded me of a bulldog. He smiled at how quickly we got together. Good. At least everybody's on the same page. The name's Vlad King. I'm your teacher this year, and I see someone has already opened the door for you guys. He joked a bit, making a few of the others to chuckle and me to sigh and try to hide. I didn't have my hoodie, so, sheet. Mr. King smiled and raised his hand. All right. That's enough. Let's get started, shall we? He asked. All of you line on up and let's see the damage. I liked him. He seemed nice enough, but he took me aside. His eyes are full of concern. I have done something wrong, sir? I mumbled. He blinked, gaining a kind smile and patting me on the shoulder. What? I just want to ask you about your quirk, he said. Man, All Might wasn't kidding when he told me you were a nervous wreck. He looked down at my gloves and the slight scarring traveling up my right arm. You got a lot of pressure on you, right? Mr. King asked. I nodded, thinking of how I just wanted to be a hero, and how I wished I had a completely different quirk. I clenched my hands into fists as I heard the thrumming of one for all increase. I still had to get a handle on it, and if Mr. King was willing to help, so I should let him. I joined the others, wearing the PE uniform of UA. A blue jumpsuit with a large white UA on the chest. A few of the other guys glared at me a little bit. One of them looked at me with a smile. He was covered in fur and he had beast-like features. You, sir, have an impressive quirk, he greeted. What's your name? He asked, adjusting his glasses with that still bright smile. I felt a rusty smile creak on my face. My name is Tenko. I said, it's nice to meet you. The beastly boy smiled and nodded. He was nice like Mr. King was. My name is Shishida Jiroda. It's good to put a face to a name, isn't it? He asked. I nodded and he walked by my side. He seemed very proper and I liked him. He didn't seem to pry into why I didn't use a surname. Another guy, with a speech bubble for a head, had a question mark in it and a cutesy picture of me in it. Hey, why do you look like that? He asked. I mean, I'm not gonna pry if it's bad, but have you tried lotion or chapstick? He tilted his speech bubble, now showing a smooth chibi version of me. Because they don't work, plus Ibra doesn't like it when I hide things. I mumbled, even if I want to look smooth sometimes. The speech bubble boy had a little emoticon in his bubble and patted me on the shoulder. Amanga Fukudashi, I really thought your quirk was? Then it was like sure, he exclaimed. I smiled and we all walked out together. Jiroda and Manga walked with me and Ibra was animatedly talking to the ginger-haired girl, glancing over at me and grinning. Mr. King stood in front of all of us, looking us over with a gleam of pride in his eyes. He had us all lined up and had 2 boxes next to him. Alright, so we got ourselves a rival. Class 1 they got themselves some great quirks in there, but I believe we can do so much better than they can. So let's go 1B. Starting right here, right now, is our training. So do your best and pick a number. Stride confidently, he declared, letting me go first. I picked out a 4. I saw that crappy grin widen on that kid's face as he flipped up a 4. Mr. King watched us all have our matching numbers and grinned. Better get used to M, because you'll be sparring with them for the next week, then you'll SWs each every other day until you all have some experience with each other's quirks and personalities, and no, Miss Shiozaki, you can't SW, he stated. The kid and I stood across from one another. He seemed smarmy enough, and I hated smarmy a-holes. Just as much as I hated villains. He grinned at me. So, you need to borrow some lotion? Or maybe some chapstick? I don't even know how a dandruff-ridden home for dust mites like you even has a girlfriend like Shiozaki-chan. He snapped, especially with a villainous quirk like that. My name is Nito Minoma, and I'll take you down a few notches. I snarled and kept my gloves on just to spite him. He frowned a little bit and took his stance, which was relaxed, just waiting for me. Come on, use that villainous quirk you have on me. I want to see what it feels like, or are you too scared that our classmates will see how much of a monster you are? He taunted. I know you have more than meets the eye, I can just feel it. I felt the thrumming grow stronger. The energy spread through my entire body before I focused it on my legs. I breathed deep and in an instant I was behind him, kneeing him in the back, feeling my skin tear open and blood started seeping out. Interesting, so your quirk is a power booster, he snapped, grabbing my arm and throwing me down, making me start to panic. Monoma, don't touch anything. I snapped, not even your own face. Nothing. Don't touch a single thing. Ugh. I'm so scared. Nito falsettoed, his smile still smarmy. I mean it, Monoma. I pleaded, tears rolling down my face, remembering taking on those scientists that tried to stop me. It can hurt a lot of podash. She tapped my nose. You really think I was gonna use it? You're too naive, he said. Just be careful, alright? I was just testing your reactions. I didn't expect the power-boosting one. I felt his arm around my shoulders, plus your legs are leaking blood a lot, and the cuts look pretty deep. He sighed, taking me over to the side. Look, I know something's up. Your quirk isn't just decay, is it? No one's supposed to know, I said. I won't tell anyone, cross my heart and hope to croak. Monoma exclaimed. Also, why haven't you told Shiozaki-chan about it? He wondered. I don't want to tell her. I mumbled. He smiled and patted me on the shoulder. Monoma wasn't as bad as I thought he was at first. Then he saw the edge of my number. I covered it with my hair as he looked ahead towards the infirmary because I could barely put any weight on my legs. Coming down the hallway behind us was a whole cluster of vines. He started to hustle, with me throwing my arms around his neck gently and riding piggyback. Normally when I got hurt, Ibra would baby me. Run, I whispered. Icha? Monoma asked. Don't look back, just run, I squeaked. I looked back and saw the girl from earlier holding Ibra back from chasing us, her vines trying to reel us in. One of them got my waist and she reeled us both back in. I've never seen another girl go that fast. Hot demon, Shiozaki. Another girl with dark green hair and eyes exclaimed, smiling toothily. Ibra forced her way out of the other girl's hold and pulled me into her arms, holding me like a child. Do not hold my Tenko like that again, you trickster, she snarled at Monoma. You'll be a bad influence on him. She cuddled me back towards her chest, petting my hair. There, nothing is going to hurt you now. She sighed. Making some of the girls but Juroda stepped in. Is that really necessary to stop his bleeding? He's leaking blood and Monoma was assisting him. You only are hindering his progress to learning how to control his power, Shiozaki-chan. Juroda barked. The ginger-haired girl Kendo nodded. Ibra still hugged me tighter. Don't listen to them, my sweet little cherub. She cooed. I felt her lips on my cheek. I pulled away and limped back to Monoma and Juroda. She grabbed my hand. Luckily my gloves were on. I looked back at her. I sighed. She smiled widely, her vines wrapping around my arm and following me like a lovesick puppy. This was one hell of a first day so far. Getting into the infirmary, I settled down as Miss Shizenji sighed. She was small and already counting the times I'd show up in here. Ibra absolutely refused to leave me. Miss Shiozaki, this'll only take a little bit, but there's something I need to talk to Tenko about, Miss Shizenji said. Ibra sighed and kissed me on the cheek. I'll be back soon, just rest, dear, she said, patting me on the head and leaving. Miss Shizenji huffed. She's a weird one, that's for sure. I nodded a little bit, surprised that we hadn't broken up or something. Did she already choose me out of all the other guys? Miss Shizenji cleaned my legs. You're so strange, Tenko. So mysterious and scared. All of a sudden Toshinori came in and was speaking rapid fire about you when he adopted you. She chuckled. You're not a bad kid. Just, you have to be careful. Who have you told so far about One for All? She pet her head to the side. Just Monoma. He'd figured out that decay isn't my only quirk, I stated. Miss Shizenji nodded and swept my hair aside to see my number. No more redness, eh? She asked. Only when I'm nervous is when I scratch, I said. But why Shiozaki? She wondered. I smiled and laughed. She's my best friend, it makes sense, right? I reasoned. I still didn't know why she loved me though. Out of all of my childhood friends, why me? I couldn't tell because she'd come up with that stupid house reason. I suppose so, but times change and maybe you'll find someone different, Miss Shizenji said. I sighed and looked down at my hands and bandaged legs. I just needed to figure out if I loved her back. I just hoped that she'd understand that I can't really hold her or do a lot of couple things the way I am now. I just need to focus on getting stronger with one for all. I need to break it in, as Dad said. So I laid down, Miss Shizenji's quirk in full effect, and I slept. So, Shiozaki-chan, do you have a crush on anyone? I overheard Setsuna ask that and I leaned back a little bit. I saw Ibra fidget and blush, her hands messing with her vines, looking down at the desk. The girls all gasped aside from the quiet one. Yui. Really? Who? Setsuna gasped. Hun, Ave Maria, tell us. Kendo sighed heavily. Guys, I got money on Shishida or Shimura. Sure-take piped up, making Ibra hide her face with her hands, muttering something and making herself look so cute. There were many types of blushes, but Ibra's was the cutest blush I'd ever seen. Her whole face just flared up into a fiery blush and her vines started to writhe and curl. Monoma started to chuckle. Hey, what are you waiting for, Tenko? Go ahead and kiss her already, he whispered, with manga showing a chibi Ibra and a chibi me hugging and cuddling. I blushed furiously and wished I had my hoodie because I didn't like showing it. Shy I am Miura. Sure-take teased, tapping Ibra gently, making her groan little. Jiroda came in and smiled a little bit. Today's the class rep election, everyone. Of course we'll all get ballots, but what's wrong with Miss Shiozaki? Why is she blushing so much? He asked. More will they, won't they? It's you stupid. Tagaru piped up, just kiss and be done with that sheet. Jiroda took a deep breath, about to chew him out for his language, and I just about had enough. I got up, feeling my chair start to tarnish. I pulled on my gloves and the chair stopped decaying. I went towards where she was sitting and moved her hands off her pretty and adorable face. Everyone leaned forward or moved closer to get a better look as I leaned in. I started to scratch a little. Something was bothering me. Maybe it was everyone staring at us. Or the feeling of being watched by something far off. I didn't notice that Ibra already did it. It was a quick peck, and I felt her vines around me. Everyone was freaking out as Mr. King came in, seeing the girls freaking out and Monoma cackling and kicking his legs. What just happened? He asked. Did someone win the lottery? Everyone froze, and the new girl piped up. Her big blue eyes and little horns made most of the guys' hearts melt from how cute she was. Mr. Vlad, teacher sir? She wondered. Is it okay for people to kiss in school? Pony no, we all thought. I was completely red-faced and I quickly scuttled to my desk. Mr. King grinned and I laid my head down. He came up to me and tapped my shoulder. So, who's the lucky girl? He asked. I wouldn't say lucky. I mumbled, this? Ibra. He chuckled and looked back up at Ibra, who was still blushing, but muttering about how she couldn't believe she did that. She seemed rather quiet for the rest of the time. Alright, so, today you're going to decide class reps. And no, you can't be haha voting go BR, and vote for the lovebirds to be reps, only them on their own. Mr. King barked, marking the board with me, Monoma, Kendo, and Yui. With some gaps for two others. Nairenjiki and Setsuna put their names up there. Mr. King stood with crossed arms as I went up first, voting for Kendo. She seemed to be a natural leader, but I noticed some marks from Yui, Sure-take, Monoma, and Manga with my name. Ibra scooched up and blushed, her vine marking the space next to my name. Everyone voted, with me having the most. I mean, I know I'm strong, but I don't know. At least Kendo got the vice position. I stood next to her, scratching my neck and looking at her with a slight smile. Is everyone okay with their choices? Are we missing one? Pony, did you go? Mr. King asked as Pony nodded cheerily. I like Tenko-kun a lot. He's nice, she said. I blushed and scratched harder. I liked compliments, but it was a little too far. Then Sure-take piped up. He helped me in the exam. So, This is payback? She mumbled. I continued to scratch, with the others not knowing what I was scratching and Ibra looking concerned. I didn't like people staring at me or being overwhelmed. The feeling of something was making me feel a little wrong. Something or someone was making my number itch. We all went to lunch, with Ibra, Minoma, and Juroda joining me. So, what do you think about being the representative? Juroda asked. I'm nervous. What if I'm not a good leader? What if I fail to protect you all? It's a leader's job to make sure everyone's okay, I mumbled, with Juroda patting me on the shoulder. I'm sure you'll make a fine leader, even if you don't think so. Miss Shiozaki was very adamant that you get the position, he said. Yeah. Even if you're a crusty little marshmallow, Minoma teased, it makes sense, you got a strong quirk, and if something goes wrong I have no doubt that you can figure out a way out of it. He looked at Ibra and smirked, plus you have your girlfriend, he exclaimed. Ibra blushed and wound a few vines around me, pulling me close and grabbing one of my hands. I had my gloves on so it was okay. She was blushing but she still held my hand. On our way to the mess hall we stuck together, mostly because she was getting used to the fact that she was my girlfriend despite Kikono's obvious crush on me. Or Setsuna flirting with me a few days ago. Or even Little Pony hiding behind me when she was scared. All those times Ibra would look jealous. Even angry at times. I knew Setsuna was the class flirt, but she liked to mess with me the most. Mostly because of my reactions. We were sitting together and Kendo parked herself next to me on the other side as Ibra sat on the right of me. So, how does being class rep feel? Kendo asked. Nothing really bit Ibra. Stop. Nothing really bit Ibra. Nothing bad's happened. Ibra shoved some bread into my mouth and I chewed it. She'd bake some herself and forced me to try it. Not that it was bad, but I knew it was a power move. Oh my. Already attracting a HRMIC. Minoma teased, making Kendo huff. I'm only sitting with him because he's the rep and I'm the vice rep. Kinoko and Tenko are friends, and Ibra's his girlfriend, she explained, looking at me as Pony peacefully clopped up with a small paper in her hands. I took it. I'm a little confused, she admitted. I don't really know what this means. She showed me the clumsily written script. That means bathroom, I said. Oh. Thanks, Tenko, she chirped. She walked away with a cute wave, making Ibra see the little bit. I don't think Ibra-chan sees it like that. My sweet Ken dashed. He was cut off by her glare. Say another word and my fist will be up your butt faster than you can blink, Minoma, she snarled. Just because she doesn't see it that way doesn't mean you can mess with me. I raised my hands. Now, calm down. He didn't mean anything by it, so, let's just eat lunch and head. Whoop. Chaos. Pure, unadulterated chaos. Everyone was panicking aside from my class, all looking around in confusion as I stood up. All right. Someone infiltrated. Class 1B, stick together and follow Tenko and I. Kendo boomed, waving one of her hands over her head to signal the others to follow us. We battled through the crowds, Kendo gently pushing the others out of the way as I did head counts, feeling Ibra's vines tighten around my arm. Anyone missing? Kendo asked. I don't think so. I mumbled, Shota's up front, Kinoko too. I saw the front gate through one of the windows. One of the teachers was holding off the reporters and cameras. I sighed and saw a kid launch himself and stick himself to the exit sign. Attention everyone. It's the media. His voice faded out. I felt a little nagging feeling in my mind. This wasn't just the media. No way they could break through that door unless they had my dad and maybe Mr. Todoroki. This wasn't just the media. Guys, whoever broke that gate has my quirk, I said. Minoma leaned over Kendo to take a closer look at the gate from here. How can you tell? He asked. I know. And that's got my quirk written all over it in the glitter pen Setsuna uses, I stated. Of course it's my quirk. I wondered what or who could have the exact same quirk as me. Or even if they were still here. It worried me so much. Everyone was together and saw my nervousness writ large on my face. When we got back to the classroom, there was so much whispering and muttering. Tagaru decided to voice everybody's concern. Tenko, who the F are you? He asked. What do you mean? I mumbled. I mean if you got family somewhere, they gotta have your quirk, too, he huffed. So I'm smelling bullshit? I blushed and looked down at my feet, not comfortable with answering. He got up and loomed over me. So come on, Shimura, spill, he growled. Tell us who that guy is. I don't know. I mumbled. I don't know at all. Bull. Sheet, he snarled, being held back from me by Ibra. He reached out and moved aside my hair, revealing my number and barcode. What the hell is this then? A tattoo? He asked. Yeah, but all I remember is that I've always had it, I said. I still don't know who's my family. Ibra hugged me, looking at Toguru with her silent fury. She wound her vines around me and kissed my cheek, rubbing it with her own, nuzzling me. Toguru snarled and sat back down. You might have oddly cute looks, but you're nothing without that weird quirk that makes you super strong and fast, he snapped, making me look down, feeling my classmates' eyes on me, all of them. Some of them were scared, confused in the case of Toguru set off. I didn't know. I never knew. Ibra, Kendo, Pony, and my guy friends looked at me with hope in their eyes. I didn't know that this was going to open a Pandora's box. I took a deep breath and smiled weakly. I don't know who did it, but I know I have to strategize. This is the prep menu, and I know this'll come back to bite us, I said. We gotta bite back. Whoever busted the gate was someone who's bad news, I exclaimed. This is the hard mode. If I play my cards right and if we figure out who did this, and strike back, we'll find the truth. Mr. King came in. Hey now, don't do anything drastic, kiddo. Just take it easy, he warned. Don't run off half-ped with a half-baked plan. Still, what Tenko said, there's no way he could have run to the gate and back to us. So someone is out there that's Tenko's brother, Minoma theorized, with Kendo thinking too. Shimura's your real surname, right? She asked. I nodded and took out a notebook from my bag. I've taken notes from watching you all fight during sparring. Shishida and Toguru could be a good combination. Kikono and I make a good one. We all have to contribute. Shota, you can make impacts stronger the second time around, so it'd be good for traps. Juzo would be a good partner in that aspect. I rapid-fired, making everyone a little confused. Heavy hitters like Tetsu and Kendo could be great for crowd control, but then there's me. I mumbled. Ibra nudged me and smiled. You and I could be good, she said. Mr. King cleared his throat and the strategizing stopped. No, you wouldn't. Tenko worries about you a ton. You'd only distract him. Now, if I were the villains, staying as a team would only make it easier to split you all up, he said. So, Tenko, what's your take on it now? If we're split up, we don't hold back. We show them we're just as dangerous as we are with a team when we're alone. So, Minoma, you can store quirks, right? Only for a time limit? I asked. Yeah, what you cookin' there, Robin? He asked. A list of quirks that'd make you a wild card if you borrow them. I handed him a small list and he gawked at it. But, some of these are... He gasped in shock. From 1A? Yeah. Work on that storage time, Minoma. We only have one shot. Either you make friends with 1A or we wait until the sports fest. Each of us is a part of this. That gate breaker sent us a message, and I don't like it. I said, villains won't hold back, so we won't. We all have people to live for, families. I sighed, rubbing my number. So, you're saying that? Kendo gulped. If I go down, it's okay? I'd have played my role, I said. No Phoenix Downs or Reviver Seeds. Game over. I noticed a lot of them looked worried and even sad that I'd consider my death in all of this. But that's the thing with strategy, you can't plan for death. I was worried and scared that I'd lose anyone. Just like when Dad told me about his injury or how old Grandpa is. If any of you I'll never forgive myself. Ever. Because you all have so much and I know I might have been born in a tube, I might have been raised by a man whose heroics cast a huge shadow, but I know that whoever broke that gate won't stop once he gets the power necessary to end us all. I can plan, I can train, I can get stronger, but it doesn't matter when you all are scared and frightened that villains will kill you, but the moment you step through that door, you inserted the game card, you inserted the coin, I said. Everyone was silent. In short, 1A doesn't matter, but I can't be strong without you all. I sighed. So work hard. Don't give up. Let's show that gate breaker and the world that we can be strong. We can make a difference. We can make our own paths. Plus, I raised my hand and the bell went off. Dismissed. A slim young man loped through the alleyways, giggling and laughing a little bit at the comedy of breaking that gate and causing chaos, but even more, knowing that his little brother was at UA, and even had his sensei's rival's power. His shoulders shook and his red eyes shined in glee's bright mirth. He was so joyous that he didn't notice a misty figure that appeared from the darkness, two golden eyes shining and waiting for him. "You seem to be enjoying yourself, Tamura," he commented. "Of course. I had a little family reunion," he exclaimed, eyes twinkling. "Tenko Shimura, that cute little BSD has everyone in his class eating out of his hand. It makes me sick." Tamura slammed his hand into the wall, cracking it and hearing the pleasing sound of snapping and crackling. A sick smile spread on his face. "Kurajiri, inform sensei that I want to SWH my opponent. Instead of class 1, I want to crush that little bug before he becomes too strong. Plus, I want to see that face screwed up into grief over losing his precious class. He wasn't meant to exist in the first place," he exclaimed with a wider smile, his eyes wide and beady. "Demon, Tenko Shimura. My brother." That was so nerve-wracking. Speaking so rigorously. I scratched at my neck viciously and Ibra sighed. She was holding onto my arm and her vines wrapped around me gently. She was still acting like the long-suffering parent rather than my friend. "Please, stop scratching," she huffed. "What does that change?" "It feels good, Ibra," I admitted, feeling her lips on my number. I blushed, and she continued to kiss it. It was soft and it tickled. "Does it feel better if I kiss it?" she asked. I giggled and felt her lips there again, feeling my cheeks burning and a soft groan escaped from my mouth. She giggled and hugged me to her chest, a soft hum escaping her throat. "I guess that's a yes, dear," she said. I remembered earlier with Taguru being so angry with me about my number, about a past I vaguely know. But about the lunchroom thing too. I still held on to her, but she seemed so much more peaceful than she was at school, constantly muttering and clasping her hands, probably praying for others' salvation. Are you okay, Tenko? I've never seen you that serious before," she asked. It was different, it was almost like there was a fire in your eyes. She and I were sitting on a bench now, just enjoying each other's company. The park was quiet, bugs buzzing and birds singing, the sun shining and making everything prettier, even Ibra. "I'm scared," I admitted quietly, so scared of losing you or anyone. I gripped her shirt tightly, my gloves holding back my decay. Her vines wound around me and pushed me into her lap, her hand moving. My head to rest on her shoulder, my face in the crook of her neck. "Don't worry about that, Tenko. No matter what you are, no matter who your brothers, that doesn't change a thing about you. You're different because you don't have to be like whatever he is," she sighed, petting my hair. I laid there, curled in her lap, listening to her soft breathing and loving every second, as much as I didn't want to admit it. She pushed me back up a little and kissed me on the lips, making me squeal a little and tarnish the bench. She pulled back and my decay stopped. "To be honest, I have desired that since forever ago," she whispered, looking away and playing with a vine, her cheeks red. I smiled and kissed her cheek. "I mean, it's easy to see why you'd always cling to me," I stated. "Still, having a co-op partner might not be so bad," I said, but then I remembered the nightmares I'd get. Me cold and alone, bleeding out slowly, hearing laughter. A hole being blown into my chest. I knew that I wasn't me in that nightmare. I was a past user. Each time it was different, then right back in the weird ocean galaxy. Even worse was when the monster would come for me. Full bracer couldn't outrun it, and I couldn't decay it. It was just a shadowy monster. A raid boss. But something about the scant few times I spent with the class and Ibra made me realize that the number on my neck doesn't matter. Ibra stuck by my side. I already knew Dad was busy uptown or back at the school. Ibra fidgeted a little next to me. I opened the door and she blushed. "What? Never seen a house before?" I teased. "It's just so." She mumbled. "Normal? Actually, this place is mine. I don't do well with other people in my space, aside from you," I explained. "My dad understands. I'm Just scared of hurting people on accident, I mumbled a little, itching a bit, getting another kiss. I pulled away. Seriously, Ibi? Keep on kissing me and I'll fall in love with you, I scoffed. I have responsibilities. I turned towards my room and she yanked me back into her arms. She kissed me again. You're not alone anymore, okay? She informed me. I'm here now. She hugged me and kissed me. She kept on clinging to me and I got a little overwhelmed. What's gotten into you? I asked. Ibra smiled and tilted my face up. You said to keep kissing you and you'll fall for me, but I've already fallen for you. She said, I love you, Tenko. She smiled and her vines pushed my door open. My room was small and not filled with a lot. My room wasn't messy, rather it was neat, because all I needed to do was use my quirk to clean it, plus I made my sheets out of the same material as my gloves. I figured out ways to bypass my 5-finger rule. She sat down on the bed, patting her lap, and I didn't move. Not that I wasn't uncomfortable with her being so forward, but it seemed wrong. I felt like I didn't deserve her. That I'd hurt her in the throes of showing her I love her. I laid my head down on her lap and she smiled down at me, petting my hair and I didn't know how to feel. She was humming something, sweetly and low, making me drift. I didn't know what to do. How to feel never came into question. I felt oddly at peace. She moved to lie down beside me, and in my haze, I felt something warm press against my face, the humming stronger, the gentle strum of her heartbeat thudding through my ears. My eyes fluttered shut. The dream happened again. This time it was peaceful. Nana was there, but this time she was holding me just like Ibra would. Almost motherly. She grinned and patted me on the head. Look at Mr. Leader breathes, she exclaimed. I don't even know how to lead, I mumbled. Nana giggled and was grinning and looking up at the star-filled sky. Well, you gotta get a little experience there. I know you got something in there that's just begging to be let out, she exclaimed. Besides, you're already great with one for all, full bracer? That already enhances your powerful kicks? And what is that weird claw move you did in the exam? She was snapping her fingers. Trying to remember, even if I was the one who came up with it. Kruger Claw Rush? I asked. Yeah. Wait, that's named after Nightmare on Elm Street, right? She asked. I nodded and she laughed. Man, you and Toshi with your Western influences. What is your next move going to be, Voorhees Slasher? She snorted. Just take it easy there, figure out what else you can do. I also feel a weird connection between us, you know? Besides one for all. She went quiet for a moment, looking at my left cheek down near my chin. A little black beauty mark was there. Things seemed to click, and she went quiet, looking down at the hand hidden in her cloak. The cloak fell away, and I gasped at what was there. A stump. Nana sighed and looked into my eyes. I guess I know how you relate to me now, huh? She asked. I guess we're closer than I thought. She sighed and smiled. Guess you found out who I dash. Suddenly the dream faded out and it dunked me into the black water, choking and gasping, trying to claw back into Nana's lap, trying to hear what she said because I needed to know. Beep beep beep. My alarm was going off, and I snuggled and drooled on something warm and soft. I sat up and Ibra was wearing one of my shirts, or was, because she was borrowing a pair of my pajama briefs. She yawned. Oh my guest. Shimmed. She stretched and smiled. You slept all night on it? I smirked and scratched my neck gently. Guess they make good pillows? I sighed, getting up and putting on my uniform, still too asleep to notice Ibra's blush growing brighter and brighter. I had it on as Ibra was almost hyperventilating from something I hadn't seen before. Was there drool coming out of her mouth? I blushed and scratched my neck, knowing that I probably set her off. I just didn't care. I left with no words, speechless at the fact that my girlfriend was in my house. Even if that sounded weird. I wore my gloves and started breakfast, still on my own. I spotted Ibra wearing her uniform. She was still not fully awake. It was adorable. I feel strange around her, like she was comforting. My heart would beat faster and my nervousness would spike. Mostly because I couldn't imagine her getting hurt. Even worse was that feeling that I'd get when she's away from me. What's wrong with me? What's this feeling? I felt safe. She wandered up to me and hugged me, kissing my number. More warmth and more giggling. What are you cooking? She asked. Smells good. Food. Sit down, I stated. I haven't cooked for anyone else before. She smiled and kissed my number again, making me squeal a little. She slipped her vines into my shirt, pushing me against her. Why thank you, dear, she chirped gleefully, making my knees go weak and my throat dried up. Why was she making me think of her as a pretty bride or in my bed, covered by the sheets and focus? Ibra was eating, her eyes sparkling and looking at me with that same adorable blush. Stop. Focus, damn it. I know what'll happen to me. I'll hold her and then she'll die. Just like when my snow. They aren't my family. Those men in white coats, those monsters. I used my quirk on them so that no one else would go through what I did. Anyway, there was the school festival coming up and the sports festival. The USJ too. I shoved my breakfast into my mouth and grabbed my backpack. Snap, great, that's another broken strap. Every single time. Ibra couldn't stop. Snickering. I scoffed, come on. Stop being in the prep menu and let's friggin' go. I snarled, kneeling. Ibra clambered onto my back. I was trying out a new piece of equipment Uncle David sent. I noticed a blur shoot by me before I could amp up one for all full bracer. I sighed and felt one for all amp up. I shut my eyes, and they glow a lavender color as I jumped from place to place. Full bracer would only scrape me. I skidded to a stop, my new shoes steaming. My lungs flared heavily in pain as I dropped. Ibra was okay, a little windblown, but okay. She drew me into her arms and hugged me as we walked into class. Seeing Kendo there. Hey Tenko. Oh, and Ibra. Wait, did you two spend the night together? She asked. We were quiet, and I looked down at my smoking steel shoe cuffs. Ibra went beet red. I mumbled, Ibra gives good cuddles. You two are hopeless. Kendo huffed jokingly, when's the wedding? We glanced at each other. Both of us mentally doing jumping jacks. Ibra blushed and said something that made me want to disintegrate myself. When we graduate. Right, dear? She asked. That's when we heard snickering and then cackling. Monoma strutted up with a grin. I sighed and went up to the front. Everyone trickled in and I was regretting my choice. I was regretting falling for Ibra. I knew I'd get weird looks from just about everyone. But I was so protective. I did roll call and Mr. King came in as soon as I sat down. I sadly looked down at my desk. Did I do something wrong? Did I make the wrong choice? Because when Kendo told Kikono and Pony, they looked a little sad. Pony was sweet, a little confused, and so adorable when asking questions. Juzo and I would talk to her in English so she'd be more comfortable. But Kinoko was adamant about paying me back for the exam. Ibra and I were friends, but it terrified me about those times. Ibra, or whoever I choose underneath me, trying my best not to hurt them. In one wrong move, they're dust. They're dead and I'm alone. Holding them and trying to put them back together. Mr. King smiled at everyone, but I was pretty much stagnant, too concerned with a what if. Not listening but sort of anyway, taking up my case. The locker room was buzzing with babbling and the other guys changing. My coat was white and the rest was blue, with yellow gloves. Just like Nana's suit. I wore my new shoes and made sure I was ready. We already determined the teams this morning. I decided that my partner for the rescues would be Ibra. I sighed and straightened, seeing Nana in the mirror for a split second. Remembering the stump made me pale. Someone had her hand out there. Someone had all their hands out there. I stepped out with the others, my coat billowing like a cape. I smiled and pulled the hood up. My hands tingled. My body pulsed and I could feel like something was guiding me. Someone was watching out for me, and if it was Nana, then that'd make sense. I needed to get stronger. Then I saw Ibra. Her suit was nothing but her appealing cloak that made her look even holier than she already was. Her vines wiggled and writhed, finding me and pulling me into her arms. She smiled and studied my suit closely. What do you think, dear? She asked. I liked how soft it was. It makes you look like an angel? I said. She kissed me. I blushed and covered my face with my hood. Everyone awed at it. I sighed, and she boarded with me. Her vines wrapped around me and removed the hood. Pulling me into her lap, curling me into a little ball. She petted my hair. Monoma took a deep breath, and, "It's trending," he exclaimed, putting his phone away. Kendo sighed heavily as Ibra held me. "He's nervous," she said. Reiko and Yui sat closest to us. They leaned over their seats and asked one question. "Doesn't that hurt?" Reiko asked. Ibra smiled and squeezed me, blissfully kissing my number and answering with, "I'd never hurt my sweet little cherub," she cooed, "not unless I sinned, then it'd be a reverse situation." I wanted to hide, hearing Monoma and Taguro laughing their buttes off. "Go to horny jail?" Monoma exclaimed. Taguro cackled. Hey, how about a love hotel?" He guffawed. "One condom please." "What's a love hotel?" Pony asked. "Because it sounds nice." We all went dead quiet as Kendo chopped them. "Look at what you did. You put a sinful thought in Pony's head." Ibra snapped. "That slovenly place has no place for the bonding of Tenko and I's souls." I shimmied out of Ibra's vines. She turned back to where I was supposed to be, but I was sitting near Mr. King, who was already chuckling. Why did they spring a trending hashtag? I ummed, curled into a ball. I don't even have a social media account. Well, let them have their fun. Soon enough this'll all be a dash. Mr. King was cut off by Taguro losing his mind. He screamed, "Oh my god. Titenko's got a Twitter account full of nothing but tweets about hashtag USJ and hashtag Kill'emAllMetallica? What the F dash? Why does Tenko make the equations meme?" Pony asked. "I don't even. Can we turn around?" I asked. Mr. King snorted, his lackadaisical mood making me feel stupid. Once we parked, I tackled a chair and hung on with all my might. It took Juroda, Monoma, and Ibra trying to wholly light cuddle me. I didn't even have an account. After Ibra's holy purge back when we were 10. Man, Katsuki was so mad, no more computer for him or me. Look, we were melons-obsessed boys. I feel like this is going to be 10 times worse. Round 1 is coming. The USJ was something special run by the school. A huge compound with a ton of different areas. My quirk could finally be useful and I wouldn't have to get torn up. So here I was, standing with the others, messing with my gloves and trying not to freak out. I felt a vine wrap around my arm and Ibra led me along with the others, trying to keep me calm. I couldn't stop feeling that way. Feeling jumpy. But it felt a little better, feeling Ibra nearby. Okay, Class 1A already beat us here, but we gotta work harder than them. So pair up and get going. Mr. King bellowed. "Shimura, Shiozaki, you two spilt, alright?" Monoma and Tetsu snickered and Ibra looked hurt, but she hugged me, brushing her lips against my cheek and sighing. I ended up drifting near Taguro. He glared at me. "What? You miss your girlfriend, dusty boy?" he snarled, his mandibles clicking together. Reiko was talking to her, and Taguro interrupted. "Stop." I mumbled. "Heh, seems like you do, dusty boy. Hey, Pinhead. Take good care of Ave Maria." Dusty boy's real nervous? Or wait, is it Toadstool? He asked, seeing Kikono and Ibra giving glares at him. They pouted and turned away. Juroda wandered up to me. "Mr. Shimura. It'd be an honor to be partners with you," he yelled. I shook my head, knowing that something was gonna go wrong. I needed no one around me. Not because I was frightened, but because I knew if anyone was near me when that thing comes, I'd hurt them. I'd hurt them just like I did those scientists. Just like what? Those aren't my family. I didn't do that. So why? Why am I even going by the name Tenko Shimura? I cried. I was just a number. Grown from cells, but from whose cells? Then it happened. I split everyone up, going to different areas as I stood, catatonic and frightened. Nana's hand was gone. The memories I have nightmares of aren't mine. I was just made from borrowed parts. But in an instant, my gloves came off, one for all igniting as I shot towards Mr. King, ramming him out of the way of an oncoming villain, disintegrating them on contact. I felt something vaguely snap in the back of my mind. I smiled, rising and watching the other villains. "None of you will get past me. I'll be the one to make sure everyone lives." "Tenko Shimura," I screamed, feeling full bracer cover me, and Mr. King grabbed my shoulder. Tenko, no. You get to the others. You're their leader. They need you, he said. Think about it, you're All Might's son, right? Adopted. Yeah, but if they kill you, that'll send everyone in the class into hysterics. Or, imagine how Shiozaki would feel. I'm fighting because they're after me. I'm fighting to stop them. I snapped, if no one does, I'm going to stop the villains to protect them. Even if I die. I clenched my hands into fists, my coat billowing. Mr. King sighed. So willing to put your life on the line, huh? He asked. I nodded, and the villains charged at me, being met by a solid bloody fist. I darted past them, using my decay to get some of them down. Everything was spiraling. No comms, no plan. No nothing as I tried my best to keep One for All under control alongside decay. I felt a deep slash and blood welled from my arm. Worried, looking around at all the faceless villains. I ignored the pain. I ignored the fact that they outnumbered me. My blood spilled from my wounds from One for All, my yellow gloves soaked red, flaking from my decay. I needed to be that symbol Dad was. If I was to be a hero, I had to rise to become that symbol, which means I'm probably going to be in the infirmary for a while. There goes mine days without bleeding streak. I got up to 10. Once I got up to 20, I was going to ask Ibra if she saw. I guess that's a moot point now. If I get out alive. I never knew how much I loved her until she had to split up from me. I needed to focus. There were so many areas. If I were a betting man, she'd be in the fire area. I froze, feeling the dread build, feeling everything stop as the smoke cleared. When did that get there? Fear made me freeze. The villains all snickered and laughed. I can't move. I can't breathe. I clawed at my throat. I have to grow up, damn it. This to stop. Laughing. I roared, my mangled arms slamming into the floor, my decay making One for All boost past my limits. Tendrils of decay shot out of the place where I put my arm, making the villains' legs crumble as they charged at me. My arm went numb and I couldn't lift it, my head feeling light. I heard someone clapping, and I barely raised my head to look at who was being dragged by the man was Mr. King, completely out of it, his arms eaten by my quirk. Stepping up was a slim, pale man with Mr. King being carried by a smoky tendril. The man was clapping and seeming to smile underneath the hand on his face. As expected of an heir of All Might's power, seems like your stat boost made you winded, he said, his voice raspy and high, wheedling. I wasn't staring at him. I was staring at Mr. King, barely moving, his eyes drooping. He could barely hold on. If 13 were here, this be a snap. My tendril surprise was an ass pull I never expected to work. I was gasping, trying to stay awake. Everyone was counting on me. What? No response? I thought you were nicer than me. The man pouted, taking off the hand on his face. Red eyes, azure hair, a beauty mark in the same place as mine. I was staring at a mirror image of myself. Older, more weathered and savage. See? You're not alone. You think he cared about you? You think that anyone here cares about you? He asked, taking the hand off the back of his head. You think she cares about you? That woman in your dreams? Don't worry, she shows up in mine too. I clenched my hand into a fist, my eyes watering with tears. I mumbled. The other me got excited, putting Nana's hand back on the back of his head. Oh, a heroic speech? Come on, little Tenko, you can't win, and I know you know that. You're like my little brother. Playing hero when all I want is for you to take off that costume and come home where you belong, besides. He sighed. I heard a loud screech and something slamming through the nearest area. Crashing through the wall was Kendo, badly broken and holding on tightly to Shota. I gasped. Shota quickly got up, cradling Kendo in his lap and crying a bit. She was in terrible shape, her arm bent at an odd angle and bloodied. She looked up at me and used her good arm. Vice, Representative Itsuka Kendo, reporting for duty, sir. She mumbled, jokingly saluting. I saw Shota trying to make her comfortable, being a scared little kid like I was. Look that it, for Yui and I? He mumbled, I couldn't see that monster coming. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. What are you gonna do? he sobbed. I glared at mine brother. He was smiling and suddenly I was kicking at him. One for all full bracer was active as I was at my limits. No one has to die today. I wasn't a leader, but this thing, whatever it was, definitely wasn't good. That thing found our hiding spot and went for Shota and Yui, making Itsuka get in the way and take it. Now I was alone. Tenko was fighting out there somewhere, Itsuka was a stain on the wall somewhere, and Shota was probably shitting himself. I have its shock absorption, but I knew it couldn't be reliable. I still had Tenko's decay and Ibra's vines. Yui's rubble wall wasn't long for this world, and Tetsu was ready to get rockin'. I won't let you guys down. I'll be steel and I'll endure long enough for Jiroda to get back. Just leave it to Tetsu, the colossal idiot yelled. Dude, are you mental? Manga shrieked, wait for Setsuna's eye and ear to get back. His speech bubble was in shock. It terrified everyone, but Ibra was always at peace. She seemed unrattled, holding Pony and comforting the more rattled others. With a ways trying to keep everyone's spirits high, too. Guys, I see him, Setsuna yelled. He's beaten the shit outta some effing edgy version of himself. Shota is taking care of Itsuka. I don't see Mr. Ken anywhere. I noticed Kojiro clenching his fists, his jaw rattling as he stood. I won't let anyone else. Tanko's out there. He's fighting. Why? Let the wall down, he stammered, priming his quirk. That's it. We can freeze the monster out there. Go, glue man. Aways yelled. Tetsu, you be Kojiro's shield. Monoma, you have that thing's shock absorption, so get ready to be a FING battering ram. Wait. I'm too handsome. I screeched in the arms of Tetsu as he rammed into the massive monster with the metal beak, sending it back as Kojiro stuck it to the floor. I blinked. It hurt way less, but Ibra looked so angry. Eyebrows knitted and down turned into a serious glare, her vines writhing. That vile, disgusting, childish, snobbish villain. Making my Tenko hurt himself, making that perfect little costume of his tarnished. I won't stand by anymore. She growled, sounding so uncharacteristically enraged. Nothing rattled her. But I had a job to do. I needed to save our reps and Shota. I needed to step up because Mr. Ken was out for the count. I felt a tap on my shoulder, seeing our resident future saint standing there. You're coming with me, she said flatly. I mumbled, look, it's better if you stay away. She grabbed me. I am far from a wilting flower, Nito Monoma. Somewhere out there my sweet Tenko is fighting for all of us, probably close to. You're not the only one who knows of. Okay. Stop. I get it. Phew. That was a close one. Hold on, Tenko, we're coming to get you. Everything was woozy, everything was blurring. Something about this guy's decay was sickening. He grinned and loomed over me. He kicked me down and leaned, looking into my eyes with that sickening grin. Jolting, trying to crawl away. The coppery stench of blood and the ruined ground were the only things keeping me awake. Keeping me here at the moment. Omni, come on. My side uselessly stuck my other leg and arm. They may hold my Nomo up, but the villains, they'll be more than happy to one-shot your friends, he exclaimed. But you're everything I can't stand. You have the gall to keep on save-scumming. All Might isn't here to see his precious heir die. Which pisses. He kicked my gut harshly. Blood tinged my mouth, and I tried to rise, my legs screaming from the slashes one for all put in them. Stumbling back on one good leg and one good arm, torn up to shreds, my body steaming from the heat. Feeling the air rushing up to meet me and the cold embrace of the ruined turf. The odd smoke curled through the air. Looking at you makes me hesitate. Someone is stopping me, he snarled, scratching his neck with one hand and grabbing the dead hand on his neck gently. Confusion settled in my mind, barely able to register. Is it you? Is it you? Stop making me hesitate, he snarled. No, he's not. He's a thing made in a lab, he howled. Let me end this. I could barely feel anything. Numb and hazy, sight and everything else fading, I broke my body, I was bleeding out, And as Tamura ranted about his hands and how they were holding him back, something yanked me away from him. Landing in gentle arms, being pressed to something squishy and soft. Hearing a distant voice. Tenko, 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 the voice pleaded, distant and echoing. A warm feeling entered my barely awake world. Silky, the cushiony feeling of something small. That's when I passed out, falling into the void. The last thing I heard was, "Here." Seeing Ibra open her cloak and wrap Tenko in it was something I wasn't expecting. What I also wasn't expecting was All Might pile driving the monster like it was Monday Night Raw. So here Nito Monoma stood, Shishida and the other students all doing mop-up around me as Ibra cuddled Tenko, crying her eyes out and kissing him over and over, her cloak slowly turning crimson, and her chest pressed up against him. She held him like a mother would her child. Was she naked under there? I mean, she's not that bad looking, but nothing compared to its sex. Stop it, Nito. Focus. All Might's here, just get your friend out of here. And, maybe for my heroics, Itsuka will stop chopping. The class needs her, and so does Tenko. Tenko needs us to. Toguru came raging out of nowhere, almost slashing the smoke man in anger, his mandibles scraping harshly. That Inugug. I've had it with these mother-lovin' villains in this Monday to Friday USJ. The only fucker that can knock Dusty Boy out is me. He roared, Monoma. What the F is Ibra doing? Dusty Boy is bleedin' out. I can't have my rival bleedin' out on me. Can you be silent, horseman of war? I'm trying to stem the bleeding and keep him warm. Ibra snapped, blushing a little. Do you mind? I know I have disrobed, but that doesn't mean you can ogle me. She cuddled Tenko to her chest. His body was limp. I've never seen him this beaten up, even if our sparring matches never rattled him too much. But that number was odd. No matter how many times he scratched it, even with all 5 fingers, it never went away. Ibra carried him towards the front, Shishida and Manga flanked them. Toguru sighed and everyone gathered together. Pony was confused and everyone was watching Mr. Can get pulled away on a stretcher. Nobody knew what to do or say. The Tenko lookalike got away, and All Might vanished, leaving us numbly watching our reps and teacher being carried away and Toguru too, Kojiro and Tetsu. Is this what being a hero is like? Setsuna asked, her dusky green eyes full of concern, seeing all the decayed and twisted areas that we were stuck in. But we were here to be heroes, I just didn't know it'd be this soon. Tenko, he did all the fighting aside from when we met up, he never got the memo? I sighed. He's a stubborn bastard, that's for sure. A man in a heavy-looking trench coat and trilby hat looked around, his dark eyes settling on us. He smiled and took off his hat. Hey, forget that number, okay? He asked, walking up to me of all people. I could talk up a good game, but why me? No, I said. Just messing with you. Had a rough time, huh? His smile was disarming, but everyone bunched up, all on guard with Toguru and Shirhai both up front with me. I smiled. Does this look easy? This looks like the desolation of Smog had a baby with the crystal wastes. I snapped. If Tenko didn't tear himself apart with a quirk too strong and too destructive, we'd be dead. We're kids, we never woke up and decided, oh hey, let's go fight the villains, lose both of our reps, our teacher, and fight more villains. Also, I almost died multiple times. So yes, I'd say this was rough. Everyone nodded, and I continued, any more questions, detective, or did I summarize enough? I asked. Perfect, the detective said. Toshinori almost busted the door down, his panic rising, seeing his son laying in the bed, with his girlfriend by his side. She was asleep, her vines wrapped around him, making the chapped lips smile. The number 1 hero smiled and sighed, but he felt a cane whap him on the head. You idiot! Sorahiko snapped, fire in his old eyes and anger making his wrinkled face even more wrinkled. Toshinori rubbed the forming bump. Have you thought for 1 second that Tenko doesn't enjoy fighting? He's only doing this because he wants a family, not a power. He's doing it because he wanted to spend more time with you. Leaving him alone because he feared his decay was the wrong move, Sorahiko grabbed Toshinori by the collar. Even Nana, for all her faults, would be there in no time at all. She'd take Tenko right out of there and save those kids. But no, you had to give Tenko a complex. An inferiority complex so deep-seated it's almost to the core of his personality. Sorahiko rubbed his temples. Tenko bloomed under my training. I knew that he needed someone to guide him that wasn't the #1 hero in Japan. Hell, even Mirai could work better than you. Toshinori wilted. You aren't like him, Toshi. He has a quirk. You didn't. He's a kid that just doesn't know where he fits. Now that he found out that his worst nightmare came true, it's gonna be a long time until he can trust you again. Sorahiko sighed and settled down in a chair next to the bed. Toshinori turned around and was about to walk out when he saw her. Nana was holding Tenko's hand, wispy and not exactly there, blurry and out of focus. She looked up at him with a smile. So no matter how scary things get, give them a smile as if to say, I'm A-okay. The people in this world who can smile are always the strongest. Toshinori felt a hand on his shoulder, and he saw her a little more clearly, smiling at him in her usual way. Her eyes stared into his own and seemed to say, I know you got this, Toshinori. He turned away again. He forced Tenko into the role he wanted him to be in. Tenko didn't know any better. Toshinori left. Just as Nana lowered her hand. She wanted Toshinori and Tenko to get along, more so Toshinori than Tenko. Tenko stirred, and Nana disappeared. Everything was hazy, waking up and seeing Grandpa and Ibra with me. He was up and leaning over me. Morning, Tenko. He greeted. Sleep well? Grandpa? What? Did we get him? I mumbled. Seriously, the last thing I remember was passing out in an angel's arms, and something soft. Grandpa coughed, his brown eyes closed and barely choking back laughter. Well, your girl dash. A lash of vines wrapped gently around his mouth. That's enough. Ibra was awake, but not without Grandpa lifting his hands over his chest. I didn't get it, but Ibra was too busy hugging me. You're okay. You're okay. I yelled, crying. I thought I... Grandpa scooched out, smiling teasingly and winking at me. Now, where's the cafeteria again? He mumbled. Memory is the first to go, then bowels. When he left, Ibra wrapped her vines around me and kissed my arm. I felt a dull pain there and she moved up towards my lips. I didn't move back, mostly because I couldn't. But I didn't want to. Not this time. Never. Ibra let out a surprised gasp, leaning into the kiss and making my feelings finally straighten up. I knew. I always knew about it. About those glares at other girls smitten with my stupid dating sim obliviousness. Those embraces screaming at me, I love you, you dumbass. Now strip. Maybe not that last part, but I love you. She sighed, love you. She tackled me, I love you. I love you. Oh, goodness, I can't stop saying it. I love you. She was grinning, so cute and radiant. I smiled and reached for my glove, feeling her soft hand for the first time. My pinky jolted up. She pressed it to her cheek and looked at me with her dazzling green eyes. I smiled, feeling it all click. The angel that saved me in the USJ, the angel that stuck by my side through all the doubt and fear. Took 10 years, and a lot of stupid shit, but Ibra, I love you. I want to make this the greatest effing life ever. I said. Language, dear, she exclaimed, laughing and making me want to kiss her again. Then the door opened with Kendo standing there and Kojiro leaning in. Well, look at that, Kojiro. The fur what? She asked. They're happy, he said. Ibra and I smiled at them, knowing that nothing would be the same after this. My brother's out there, fed by the RNG. For now, all we gotta do is growing. Grow to be stronger. Round 2, Social Link. I was out of the hospital with a clean bill of health. I was rubbing my neck number gently. Thinking of him. Thinking of that BSDRD's smile. Thinking that I'd end up like that. But why'd he hesitate? I just wanted to see Ibra and make sure she was okay. I mean, not that I was too worried about her. I mean, she's probably alright. I wanted to... Ah, damn it. Enough with the stupid tears and all that. I want to see her. So here I was, seeing the lights on through the window of my house. I immediately posted up. Time to get ShareGuard up, honey. Full bracer? Nana mumbled. Nana, maybe Dad decided to visit? Or Grandpa? I thought. Right, Nana sighed. Can't blame grandmama for protecting her grandbaby. I slowly opened the door, hearing soft humming. Smelling something good wafting through the air. Nana was making soft music with her mouth that sounded like Jaws mixed with Mission Impossible. I saw Ibra making something, humming a little song with a shine in her eyes. She seemed happy, then she turned around, and in seconds, she was hugging me. You're home. Welcome back, darling, she exclaimed, kissing me all over my face, regardless of how dry it was. Some vines wrapped around me, letting her hold me. I blushed and kissed her forehead. I missed you, B, I sighed, feeling her vines winding around me. I didn't know why she was here. She nuzzled me. I love you, dear. I love you so much, she exclaimed, kissing me again and wrapping her arms around me. I tried to scooch away. How long has it been? I wondered. Ibra pouted and sighed, closing her eyes and going back to the food. I grabbed her shoulders. My gloves were on, so it was okay. How long? I asked. I don't want you to get hurt again, she sniffled, seeing you so torn up. I won't take it if you get hurt again. So, no more being a hero, got it? Oh, Nana, will you shut your mouth? Ibra hugged me tightly. Just stay with me, she begged. I don't want you fighting. I huffed and I felt the thrumming power of one for all. Ibra, promise me you won't tell anyone, I sighed. Only Monoma knows about this, but I need you to promise me that you won't tell a soul. Ibra smiled. I promise, Tenko. It won't be as bad as when you told me about decay, right? She asked. It's something bigger than that, I sighed, looking down at my feet, getting ready to tell her. My other quirk. I held out my hand, seeing the flecking purple energy ignite gently, making my hand tingle. Is one for all. Given to me by someone to carry on into the future. That's why my body was being damaged. Why I've trained so hard to withstand it without exploding. I explained, as long as I have this quirk, I can't quit. I'm sorry, she pulled back a bit. Oh, I see, she mumbled, her eyes closing and sighing. I touched her cheek and she pushed it off a little bit. Do you not trust me enough? She asked. Do you not love me? I sighed. Look, Ibra, I can't just go around talking about one for all. It's not about that. Itsuka, even Pony and Kikono, they look at you like they longing you. They're all better than me. She fiddled with her shirt, balling the edge in her fists. All of them would be better fits than me. I was in shock. No, don't do this, Ibit. Don't beat yourself up. I should have saved you. I should have been there. I kissed her, pushing her against the wall. Kissing felt good. I didn't back away. I wanted her. I didn't dare pull away. She ummed, pulling back. Is that good enough of an answer? I asked. Because I've been wanting to max out the High Priestess social link for a long time, I purred. She pulled me close with her vines, a few of them handling the food as we still locked lips. We could eat it later. Ibra was oddly hungry for this. You don't know how much love I wasted, how much I've lusted for you? She whispered, touching foreheads with me. She reached down, her vines taking off her clothes, kissing me deeply, and I backed up. I wasn't ready. Not at all. We were 15. Why the hell were we doing this? This is so different. Different from Ibi, the girl that'd cuddle me. This Ibra was new. She was stripping. Protocol has left the station back with the shocks. Ibra, no, it's too sudden, I stated. Ibra hugged me tightly. There are other ways, just hold me then, she sighed, pressing her chest against me. I sighed and pulled back even more. I just went into my room and shut my door. I didn't want this. I didn't want to hurt her. I didn't want to see her crumble into ash. I crawled into my bed and covered myself up, shivering and shuddering, scratching my number frantically. I heard the door open and Ibra stepped in, her light footfalls sounding on the carpet. She got into bed, hugging me tightly. She was rubbing my back, hearing my distressed groaning and kissing the back of my neck. I hate when you scratch, she sighed. I curled into an even tighter ball. I need time, I mumbled. It's not safe. I thought back to my brother and that monster. I can't have anyone. Because if they die it'll be on me. If I can't save the people I love and care the most about, then what the hell am I? Now I understand. I can't have a family, I can't have what other people have because my quirk is too destructive. Dad won't even visit me and I can't hold you or touch you without my gloves on. I sobbed, pulling away from her. Put your clothes on and go, I sighed. I'll hurt you, I mumbled and shut my eyes. I don't want to lose you. She wrapped her vines around me. Just sleep, okay? She asked. I slowly fell asleep to her humming something. I had another dream, this time just floating in that sea, just staring up at the stars above. No Nana or anyone else, just me. It was weird, until something grabbed me suddenly and I was yanked under. Gasping and clawing, trying to escape, seeing the stars grow brighter and brighter, I was turned around, staring into the face of my brother. Found you, he exclaimed. I started to scream before he clamped his hand over my mouth. We were in a dream so he couldn't use his quirk. Shut up. Listen and listen good, got it? He asked. I nodded. I am not Tamura Shigaraki, I'm just, look, this is dumb and probably weird, but I'm the idealized version of who you are, he said. The you that you see, I'm not that much older. Pretty pessimistic, but it's true if you don't let other people in, he said, so let her in. Let her in. Because if you don't, I don't think Nana would ever forgive you. He looked down at himself. Blood started to seep from his body, he was slowly dying in front of me, eye glowing lavender as a spike moved through his chest. I woke up to the soft morning sunlight and the sound of soft breathing. Ibra was still here and holding me. Morning, she sighed, smiling at me. Mwah. She kissed me on the forehead. Then the alarm went off, signaling us that it was time for school, and time for me to embarrass myself on nationwide television. Oh boy. The heir of all might, about to die on national TV. Ibra hugged me tightly. We don't have to go, do we? She mewed. She still got her uniform on, and I did too. Time for the sports festival. We all stood in the student tunnel, the thunder of the crowd making everyone nervous. Kendo breathed deep, shadowboxing. I stretched and snapped on my gloves, the thrumming of One for All in my ears. Hey, you doing okay, Tenko? Nana piped up. Seems like everybody's pumped up. I nodded and she ruffled my hair. It's okay to be nervous, just smile. Or is it about Tamura? She asked. I nodded again and she sighed. Look, you're not him, okay? You might look like him, but that's what's wrong with me. I look too much like him, I mumbled. If he keeps going, no one is gonna trust me again. Nana grabbed my shoulders, eyes steady. Ibra trusts you, Toshinori trusts you, Itsuka and all of your class trusts you. Why else did they look at what you did in the USJ and rallied behind that? She asked. You got this as long as you show the world why you're as strong as you are. A vine wrapped around my arm, tugging me into Ibra's waiting arms. She looked at me with a cute tilt of her head. She was so pretty, but so nervous at the same time. She threaded her fingers through my hair. It's getting much more azure, she sighed. But do not worry, my love. She kissed me for a quick second. You're still the only one that relaxes when you feel the touch of my vines. She giggled softly and caressed my cheek. Aibi. Stop. You know that embarrasses me, I muttered. You know I could decay you, Ibra scoffed. Oh please, you wouldn't survive without your daily dose of Ibi kisses. She smiled once I hesitated. But I would, I admitted. So get to it. I pointed at my cheek, she kissed it, other cheek, kissed it. Then she kissed my number, and just when she was going to kiss my lips, Monoma came over. Hate to break up this tender bonding moment, but we got the fest to get to, and they're not here to see you two's cute little rom-com, he said. Save it for the bedroom, Tagaru snarled, clacking his mandibles. We blushed and I tied back my hair. With Ibra twirling her vines around her fingers, I stood at the front of the two lines, with the signal to go out being, Hey there world. This is present Mike Cumin at you red hot and ready from UA's very own sports festival. The first years are real firecrackers this year, but there are two students predicted to rank pretty high up. Both Katsuki Bakugu and Tenko. Tenko what? Just Tenko? Or the one on the Pak Tenko Shimura. Other than that, reffing for us is the R-rated heroine, Midnight. A bunch of vines yanked me back and Ibra buried my face into her chest, protectively holding me. Holy bosom! Shirhai yelled, smiling as he spread his hand dramatically over his face before I was pressed into darkness. Holy bosom! Taguru yelled. Please refrain from any inappropriate behavior, Miss Shiozaki. Even though Tenko seems to enjoy being pressed against your, holy bosom. Jurota yelled, with manga making a boo sound effect. Setsuno was losing it. Pahaha. Really? Ha. It's on live TV now, she cackled, with Monoma shaking his head. So sorry, Miss Midnight, but it seems our rep is all tied up at the moment. He sighed heavily before I came up for air. Don't smother me like that, I gasped. You could have triggered my decay. Ibra pouted and hugged me tighter, my haphophobia starting to bother me. I broke away and faced who Ibra was protecting me from. I scuttled up next to Katsuki, dodging those blue eyes with my own red. I wish I had a hood on this thing. She had dark purple hair and wore a DMNREX outfit, but I paid more attention to Katsuki. He looked at me. Tenko, he stated. Katsuki, I said flatly. You want to go first? Or should I? He asked. Why was he nice to me? That smile didn't look right. Not at all. He brushed past me and took up the mic. Listen up. I'm not here to compete. I'm here to win. Now let's shut our cake holes and get this going. I got a medal to collect, he shouted. I scuttled forward as he flipped off Monoma. I sighed and fumbled around in my pocket. Hold on. I am to got him. No cards. I mumbled, feeling nervous as they all fluttered to the floor. I felt the whole area constrict around me. Seeing no one, everything darkened and I felt my breathing hitch. This wasn't like after the USJ or even that strategy meeting we had. I felt my brain almost shut down from the sheer panic. My brain was flicking through so many things, the tube, that woman, that man, that girl, that dog. All of them breaking down. Then the tube, the warmth of the artificial thing that grew me. Cold, new, breathing, hocking up fluid. Reborn again into this dark replica of the stadium, all with dark shadows around me. The monster, Tamura, all of it slamming in on me like being crushed by glaciers. Stumbling and running towards a light and throwing aside the shadows in my way, I got back to the room, slamming the door behind me. I breathed deep, opening my eyes again and saw myself wedged into the very back corner of the tunnel. Bad day, huh? Another voice said. I looked around and saw the older me. Come on, Tenko, don't you want to be me? I want to go home. I tried to snap, but I found myself on my feet. If you give up now, there won't be a tomorrow or a home to go back to, older me said. If you give up now, there won't be a day you look back and see a brighter day when you finally accepted who you are. He looked down at a weird black arm. Besides, he raised his boot and crushed it in disgust. You can't just keep that fear in ya. You gotta run right into that stadium, take off those gloves, and show them what you got. I get it, you're scared, you're nervous, and you're panicking because you think everyone is counting on you, he said. But they are. I can't go out there. I'm not brave enough or strong enough. I can't, because I know that I'll disappoint someone. I snapped. Come on, chin up, act on that fear, make it yours and throw it away, he exclaimed. I sighed and walked back out, breathing calmly and with more resolve than ever to get out there and do this thing. I snatched the mic from the stand and said, win or lose, flashy quirks aren't all there are. Like explosion. What matters is the talents we show out there. I yelled. So let's go, let's show them all that rivalries don't matter, all that matters is what we do our best. I left the stage and went back to my class. A lot of them looked a little worried. Clearing her throat, Midnight raised her WP and snapped it down. A roulette graphic rolled on and it stopped at the obstacle race. I took a deep breath, standing with the others in a running stance. I felt one for all thrumming around me with everyone ready to go. I glanced on my right, there was Bakugu. To my left was a boy with half red and half white hair with a scar on his left eye. Here we go, folks. The first event of the UA Sports Festival. 3 students are slated for greatness. Will it be one as blasting boy Bakugo, the son of Endeavor Shoto Todoroki? Or will it be one BS mysteriously powerful leader and tactician Tenko Shimura? On your marks. Midnight yelled, get set, she continued, one for all full bracer activated, Go. With the crack of a WHP, the turf under me cracked as I burst ahead, running like a pro sprinter would. Seeing ice trying to trip me up, I went faster, almost becoming an azure and purple blur. Seems like Shimura's really running for the gold medal. I got through the tunnel and saw the villain robots from the exam. Seeing a purple-haired kid get thrown my way by one of them, I burst ahead, floating over him and seeing the kid crash into the far wall. That's Minoru Mineta with the wipeout. But look at that mid-dare dodge from Shimura. He's using his quirk to his full advantage. But coming in hot right B-dash. Shiayamurararea. Bakugo screamed, out of my way. I sprinted ahead, trying to keep my distance, but one bot got close, making me lash out my hand and use my decay to turn it into ash. It exploded as I rode off the wave, my clothes burnt and my hand bleeding from the slash I made. I ran onward, decay spreading around me, seeing Izuku speeding in on a psychically charged robot bike. He was speeding up fast alongside the other three. I then started using float and one for all full bracer in unison, imitating Grandpa's moves. Whoa! Izuku Midoriya joins the fight for first. But what's with Tenko's new strat? He's imitating Gran Torino. Bakugo and Todoroki are bottlenecking for third. I kept going, my eyes fixed dead ahead. The platforms weren't so bad, dodging and hopping from one to another. I kept my eyes dead ahead, not concerned about my placement, seeing all kinds of people traversing them with me. I shut my eyes and Nana was there. Keep going, kiddo, she encouraged me. I know. Just keep float up, okay? I have an idea. I yelled, my already damaged hand making a motion like I was gonna flick someone. I positioned it behind me and in a burst of air I shot forwards like a bullet, feeling my hand get more and more lacerated. I overshot the platforms and the minefield, going in for a landing as I saw Bakugo doing the same thing. We both slammed down at the exact same moment. I didn't know who won, but I could barely feel my arm. Bakugo got off me and saw my limp arm over the line. I smirked and he snarled at me. You're dead, you hear me? F-I-N-G dead, he growled. I stood and saw the others coming, but I tore off a length of my breathes to wrap an impromptu bandage around my arm. I sighed and tightened it. I don't believe it. Tenko Shimura won by an arm. Looking down at my arm, I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel it at all. Mostly because I never used it that way before. That flick made the difference, but now. I clenched the headband in my other hand. No one wanted to be partners with me. I sighed and got suddenly yanked into Ibra's arms. She lifted my arm and kissed it. She sighed. I hate when you get hurt. Now come along, I've gathered a few people. Why was she so concerned with me? I saw Tetsu and Itsuka, and they waved at us. I nervously joined them and Ibra hugged me tightly. I buried my face close to her heart to listen for a bit. I was getting scared again. Shoo, it's all right, dear. I know you're terrified. You've been scratching for the past 5 minutes. She petted my hair and hummed a little tune. Shoo, it's okay, it was weird. She was sending me mixed signals. 1 minute, she's like my friend, and the next minute, she's cuddling me like she's my wife. Not that I was complaining. I liked it. The way she held me, laying my head against her chest and petting my hair as her vines wound around me. I know you're scared, but don't be, we're going to win, right? She asked, pushing me back a little and kissing me on the forehead. Don't ever regret this, okay? You've got a lot of time to develop and grow, she said. Itsuka and Tetsu took the back and the front, but we were hee-yee-I. A salmon-pink blur slammed hard into me, knocking me aside and to the ground we went. You're the guy in first place. Let me join in with my babies. She had bright golden eyes. I already have a team, sorry, I mumbled. I looked at her expression fall for a bit, but I stood up and saw Ibra looking rather smug. Tetsu leaned over to me. Dude, Ibra looked scary. Just, what's her damage? He hissed. I thought she was gonna go full-on Crusader mode. I dunno why she does that, but it scares me. Every time I'm near another girl it looks like she's gonna kill them, I said. Tetsu snickered and chuckled. Tenko, are ya dense? She likes you, he exclaimed. I crossed my arms. I can tell, I said. No man, she's gonna approach you like this, he grabbed my shoulder. She likes ya, and she wants ya, now she can do that the easy way, or the hard way, the choice is yours. I shivered a little, looking at Ibra and seeing her smiling and waving at me. What's the hard way? I squeaked. Tetsu shrugged. I know, never got as far as you, he drawled. Alright, form up, guys. We're about to hit this sheet full throttle. I got a plan. Aren't I the one with the plans? I snapped. Tetsu laughed and got in front of me with Ibra wrangling me to be on top. They were in a triangle as I was above them. It was time for the next event. The cavalry battle. All of our teams faced off for war, One for All and Decay were primed to go. I sighed and stuck my headband on my wrist, double tying it to use a dirty tactic. Ibra looked up at me with a "I'm very disappointed in you, my love" face. High risk, high reward, plus Itsuka and Tetsu's defenses. We raged forward, One for All blasted in my ears. My limit was at 5. Coming right for us was Team Todoroki, Team Tagaru, and Team Midoriya with Team Bakugo and Monoma. They're coming for us, man. Tetsu snapped. I smiled. Just what I wanted. I howled, spreading my hands and looked at them. Whatever you do, trust me. I felt a vine lash onto my waist. Nana, have float ready to go. I thought, launching off Tetsu's shoulders and into the air. I felt the band get snatched off my wrist. Whoa. An explosive sacrifice from Shimura. Just what is he thinking? One for All full bracer. I was floating upwards, slamming hard back down with my leg, falling Icarus. The ground cracked and chunks of it flew up, and all the teams that were bigger tried their hardest to get away, hence why I only went with 3 other teammates. The pairs were too small, and the vast groups were too slow to dodge or even deal with the earth moving beneath them. Using the explosion as a distraction, I tore my way to the heavens and smashed the earth. In the bedlam, my team reeled me back in and set to work gathering bands. My leg throbbed and I could barely stand. The battle still raged as I egged up the pain. My power thrummed hard, and I was gasping harshly. My chest heaved, and it felt like a freighter punched me. But in my bandaged hand was a band from one of the scattered teams. Blood poured from me and I didn't care. I could barely feel it. All I could do was to be carried by my teammates, trying my best to stay on my feet. One for All in this case was more internal than external. I felt the pain abate and I looked down at my leg, seeing a black and purple pulsating wrap there. You owe me one, kiddo, an unknown voice boomed. I saw a man with 2 bandoliers on his chest, a firm jaw, and a cocky smirk. Name's Daigoro Banjo. That quirk's Black Whip. Top grade, treat her right and you'll be fine. Did I break my leg? I thought, trying to get an answer. Nah. But you got pretty torn up. I couldn't just let the new guy bleed out. I'm a nice guy, right? Yeah, thanks, Daigoro. I smiled and stood back up. The time was almost up, and everyone was still fighting. Shimura! Bakugo roared loudly, acid shooting out from the bubblegum pink girl, and we just barely dodged. Black Whip formed on my damaged arm and hand. My decay broke my breathe leg bandage. My eyes locked on him. Bakugo! I thundered, charging at him with my new quirk helping me out, keeping my injuries safe so I could heal them. I drew my fist back and punched a shockwave of air right at him, blowing them apart, aside from the rock-hard copy of Tetsu. We balked and darted back away from the others, leaving them be, but I saw Bakugo riding on the shoulders of the copycat. We were tearing cheek away from the others and ending up seeing Monoma yoink his band with Vine. Thanks, Monoma, I owe ya one. I thought, finally being able to. Suddenly we were yanked right towards Izuku's team. Black Whip, Vine, and Tetsu's steel made it harder. Kendo picked up a bunch of rocks with her hand and smiled. She threw them and Izuku had to stop them, blood dripping from his nose. He had a pretty nasty quirk himself. If he could catch us, it'd be all over. Another amazing move by Team Midoriya and an excellent counter by Team Shimura. We're down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen. Team Shimura is leading at the moment, followed by Team Bakugo and Team Todoroki. Then it was all over. Everyone stopped, and the others let me gently down. I laid there, my head in Ibra's lap, Black Whip keeping my leg and arm from bleeding out on me. Ibra smoothed my hair and kissed me on the forehead. "Are you still hurting, Tenko?" she asked. "A little, yes," I admitted lamely, feeling her lips on my arm, Black Whip curiously tangling with her vines a little. She giggled, seeing them tangled together. "Oh, hello," she exclaimed. "Seems like this is another facet of that quirk." Yes, she touched them and it tangled around her hand. She giggled even more. "Daigoro, what the hell?" I thought. "Kiddo, this isn't me, this is the quirk. It likes her," he answered. "Dude, tap that." "I can't do that." I thought. "Beach, I saw you fight that BSTRD without fear of death. What are you so afraid of?" he asked. Ibra giggled, the little tendrils tickling her. She looked so cute. Her hair was tangled around them too. I don't want to mess this up with some dumb mistake. I thought, like decaying her. "Kid, you would have done that already multiple times. The only limits you have are the walls you built yourself to hide behind. That's not healthy at all." She's basically giving you bedroom eyes, letting you cuddle against her chest, and basically claiming you as her husband. Daigoro ranted. "So man the F up. You're not like that crusty dipshit. You won't hurt her, you don't even dream of hurting her. You're even using her lap as a pillow right now." Ibra was still giggling and petting my hair between giggles. Vines covering my body like a blanket, Black Whip stopped tangling, but I saw Yui standing nearby. "Yui, not yet. I want to hold him some more," Ibra whined, pouting and crossing her arms. "A brief nap for him will help him. Let me hold him." She turned to me and leaned over me, kissing me. "I'm sorry, love." She sighed. "I have to go for now, we can cuddle later after your victory." I squeezed her waist with my arms. "Oh, too tired." I yawned. "Just got comfy." She sighed and wrapped her arms around me, her vines shifting, making a soft lulling tune. She kissed me fondly and settled me in one seat. I was peacefully napping. When I woke up, I saw Toguru in my face. His mandibles scraping together and making a sharp scraping noise. I heard Juroda shouting about indecency and whose idea was this to have such depravity? "Dude, look out there," he said. "Look at the girls and tell me that ain't Ibra." I rubbed my eyes and peeked out, seeing the girls in cheerleading outfits. What? I mean, they looked nice, but what was so bad about it? "What's so bad about it?" I asked. "It's just them having fun." Then I clapped eyes on Ibra, and I almost did an anime-level overreaction. What did she do? I mean, the uniform was cute on the others, but Ibra was stunning. Ibra looked up and waved her yellow pom-poms at me, a bright smile on her face despite her blush. The uniform had a green and orange color scheme to it, and I couldn't stop staring. It wasn't tight on her, and it looked like she was having fun. Oh my god, she looked so cute. That girl from 1B. The one with the vein hair? Kirishima? Gee guys? What's up? A boy with golden hair and eyes with a black streak in his hair didn't notice me nearby. And I flew back to Setsuna, and she was talking to Ibra. Ibra smiled. "Hey, Tenko. Tenko T. Okay. What's that spell?" "My lovely Tenko," she cheered, making me hide my face behind my hands and just curl into a little ball. She pumped her pom-poms and looked so cute, her vines making little heart-like shapes. Oh wow. Look at 1B. Fan service overload. And what a caring girlfriend, cheering on her boyfriend. I just wanted to go back to sleep, cuddled against Ibra and just hearing the soft lullaby of her vines and her heartbeat. She loved it when I was with her. Maybe a little too much. I still tried to figure that out. Soon after, I realized I was just tired, and I wanted to rest before the next event. Ibra came back up, her hair undoing itself. "Come here, darling," she said, helping me up and taking me to my break room. Sitting in a chair and one of her vines shutting the door, she held me close, petting my hair and humming softly. Her vines became like a blanket again. "Tenko, rest now, okay?" she asked. I closed my eyes, hearing the whisper of her vines, her soft, warm voice humming out a calm lullaby. She was a light. That's what she was. More of a beacon. Comparing her to everything else was impossible. Because she could just be anything. A dream, an angel, a demon with the face of an angel, a goddess even. I slowly relaxed and she chuckled softly. "Sleep well, my love," she whispered. I was so lucky to have her with me. Falling asleep in her arms, cozy in her vine's embrace. Lovingly held and valued like me being a clone didn't matter. Held in her arms, away from the loud and maddening crowd, at peace. Sleeping against her like I was home. I was home wherever she was. A pleasant dream, laying like this in a house somewhere far away into the country. In a secluded clearing in the forest, no heroes or villains. Just us, laying in bed and watching the day go by. She had even longer hair, even though she preferred it waist length. She looked older, had cute glasses, and was sleeping with them on. I reached up and touched her cheek, finding that my main punching or slashing arm was covered in scars. I was older too, but it felt right. It felt like it meant me to be where I was. I loved her. And what woke me up was a nightmare. Burning filled the room, blood was on my gloved hands, Ibra's breath stopped, and I woke up with a start, seeing her still pressed up against me with a smile on her face. "Ibra, wake up." "Ibi? Come on, wake up," I urged. "Don't be dead, come on." I shook her a little. Tenko? You look so worried," she yawned, blinking and looking at me with a smile. "Don't worry, lovely, you'll be fine." They were going to start the fights. Oh boy, here I go. Here I go into the breach once more. Game on you. All right. This time it's a rock sock throwdo down. In this corner, we got one cheery little acid queen. Give it up for Mina Ishido. My opponent ran out happily, waving and cheering, looking like $1,000,000 had just fallen into her lap. The thundering crowd cheered and it encouraged me to give her a good fight. She had bright pink skin and little horns, golden and black eyes. In the other corner, we have 1B's strongest student Quirkwise. Just what's going on with that brain of his? Will he make it to the end? It's Tenko Shimura. I was nervous, walking out with Black Whip covering my arm and my leg, but I didn't notice intense muttering coming from my student box, seeing Ibra fervently praying. I sighed, hearing her even sobbing. "Demon kid, you really have a fervent girlfriend. She's treating it like you're gonna go to war." Daigoro commented, "As long as you got Nana and I's quirks, you should be fine." I smiled and got into my stance, Black Whip pulsing and writhing. "Okay, let's dance," Mina exclaimed with a bright smile. I sucked off Black Whip, my arm and leg were okay eventually, feeling it come back and with one for all too. One for all. Full armor. I thought, smiling and seeing Mina closing the distance, Black Whip going out and going for a reel-in. I went over her, getting burned by a spray of acid. My eyes were blinded and I shut them, listening. Footsteps. Black Whip from the left. Black Whip had something until it didn't, but I had her in my range, lashing out with a kick. I got her. Black Whip dampened one for all's damage output. I opened my eyes, seeing Mina on the ground. I walked over and helped her up. "I didn't hit you too hard, did I?" I wondered. She shook her head, but I made sure she was all right. "Man, Midoriya was right. You're pretty strong, Shimura," Mina said. "It was pretty cool how you used those weird tentacle things." I sighed and looked up into the student area, seeing my class happily cheering and 1A respectfully cheering along with them. Yowza! What a strong opener for 1B. Well then, on to the next match. Ibra met me in the tunnel and gave me a hug. "Wish me luck, Tenko, I'll give it my all for you, darling." She kissed me and her vine still held on to me for a bit before letting go. I sighed and went back up to the box, seeing her coming out. Next up is the assassin of 1B. It's Ibra Shiozaki, but you might want to change it T-. Excuse me? I don't like being called an assassin, sir. I'm not here to kill people at all. I just want to spread salvation all over the world, and marry my Tenko one day, Ibra stated innocently enough. Present Mike stumbled. Okay, sorry. Worry not, sir, it's fine, you're forgiven, Ibra said, holy light shining down from above, illuminating her and making her look even more appealing. All the guys looked at me and it froze me. A marriage? Marriage means SSC. TC means babies. Babies mean more chances that decay spreads down the line. I thought in a panic, scratching again, decay. But Chance that my kid will have a body count. You okay, Tenko? Kendo asked, you're scratching again? That just caught me off guard. Itsuka, I said, I'm gonna be a strong hero. If I get married to Ibra, that puts her in danger of being used against me, that and I might accidentally kill her with my quirk? Well, it's alright. But well, she's a little weird about it, she answered. How so, Itsuka? I wondered. Well, she literally described you two's wedding even down to the flavor of the cake, the dress she'd wear, even to how many kids she wanted. Setsuna exclaimed, you're one fine piece of butt, Shimura, but Ibra's got her eyes only on you. Wait, what? I mumbled. Yeah, and that's not even the tip of the iceberg, Kikono sighed heavily. She's even described how she wants you to she made a certain hand motion and I got even more scared. We looked back down at the arena. And in this corner is the electrifying wizard of 1A Park, the human taser gun, Denki Kaminari. Hey, wanna go out for a bite? You and me? He asked. When I heard that, I felt my decay come back up. Ibra. No mercy. Cobra Kai, that tiny-dicked fuckboy. I thundered, my voice becoming raspy like my brother's voice. I saw fear on everyone's faces. I sounded too much like him, and it scared me too. But that was nothing compared to the look of sheer terror on Ibra's face. I froze, seeing that terror made me stop. See? You're not alone. You think he cared about you? You think that anyone here cares about you? You're like my little brother. Playing hero when all I want is for you to take off that costume and come home where you belong. Shut up. Shut up. You're not like me. I'm not like you. I thought, just leave me alone. I was remembering the USJ at that moment. I was watching the fight, and it was effortless. She protected herself from the discharge and more vines tied him up from below. She turned and left with a smile. I'm sorry, but my heart belongs to someone else, she said. And the crowd went wild. I couldn't look at the other fights. I just didn't know how much I was like him. I didn't mean to yell like that, but the moment I heard that dumbass ask her out, I lost it. Ibra came up to the seats, laying her head on my shoulder and wrapping her arms around me. I shut my eyes and held her. She petted my hair. You were just being protective of me, Tenko. It just scares me when your voice becomes so raspy, she said. It hasn't been long since the USJ. I nodded slowly and kissed her. It's okay, Ibi. I didn't mean for it to slip out like that, I said. She looked up at the next fight, which was Todoroki versus Izuku. And it ended like I thought it would. But Bakugo's next round. Bakugo was going to face Ibra. My grip tightened on her. I didn't want her to face him. It wasn't gonna end well. Ibra was mine. My angel. My light. I didn't want to see her get hurt. She was my best friend, my only friend other than Izuku and him back then. Ibra kissed me tenderly and got up. I'll be back when I win, okay? She asked. My battle against Mei was easy. She just wanted to show off some inventions. Nothing wrong with that. Ida had given up because of something coming up. So that left Izuku and Todoroki, ending with a double KO. Alright. Next up is Ibra Shiozaki versus Katsuki Bakugo. Let's get it on. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, seeing her standing there across from Bakugo. At the crack of a WHP, war began, heat and vines dying. Ibra put up a strong offense. Bakugo was savage, relentlessly burning her vines away like he grabbed her, glaring right at me. The only thing holding you back, Tenko. Don't you remember? He put his hand on her chest. One blast and a heavy toss out of bounds was all it took to scream in hysterics. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop the tears from falling. Panic rose in my chest as I went down to see if she was okay, my breath hitching and gasping, kneeling and seeing the charred remains of vines. The whole crowd went dead quiet. Seeing my angel with torn-up hair replaced the sadness with rage. Something took me over in that moment, but I felt her hand touch my cheek. Nana and Daigoro both were screaming at me to stop and think for a moment. But her touch and their voices only made me more enraged. He hurt her. He hurt my angel, my light, the girl I wanted to be with for the rest of my life if I was able to. I picked her up and held her away from the stretcher bot, one for all just barely holding back decay. I held her close, her lips were moving, her hand on my cheek, but I couldn't hear a thing. Grandma saw me come in and she looked a little shocked, but I laid Ibra down, a few weakened vines wrapped around my wrist gently. Don't stoop to his level, you're better than that, she whispered. I sighed and nodded. If violence is his only answer, then I'll take that as his only language he can understand. I love you, Ibra, and if I have to go full power, then I have to go full power, I shrugged. It is what it is, lovely. It's time. The final match. 1-on-1. No tag-ins or tap-outs. 1A's munitions Amstar versus 1B's powerhouse tactician. Only one will win. My breath was deep, one for all pulsing and thrumming alongside my heart. I needed to accept that I had the power to destroy at my fingertips. I had to accept it. I stepped up into the arena. Midnight was up higher than I remembered. Everything felt like a final boss level. The thundering crowds, the nervousness, the HP bar being lower than my confidence. I spread my hands out, my lips stretched into a vicious smile. Across from me was Katsuki, his face oozing jackass overconfidence. You think you're a hero? I'll be the one in that spot. I'll be the one winning while you're sitting on your butt playing house with Shiozaki, he snapped. Then I shattered the arena below me, launching myself at him, being met by an explosion, Black Whip covering my arms and taking the brunt of it. Bakugo smirked, seeing the destruction we made together. Through the smoke I came before him, decay spreading from my hands, accepting myself, accepting my brother and his power. I clenched my mangled hands into fists, one for all and decay working together as I closed in, the blasts blowing me back and blood dripping from me. Full bracer was making me faster, but I didn't have time to waste. He broke Ibra. He broke Izuku, but he sure as hell won't break me. I drew my fist back. My last attack, my biggest one, my best one. One for all, full bracer, revenant smash. My voice thundered, being met with a tremendous explosion, but through the fire and loud thunder there was something with me. Something there among it all. The explosion silenced all around us. My ears were still ringing, but Katsuki lay on the broken and decaying ground. I turned away, closing my eyes. All talk and all bluster, admit your weakness and trust in others, that's when you know you're strong, I heard shifting and a weakened Bakugo rose to his feet, his chest heaving. You BSTRD. You cloned BT. You nobody, he spat, no family, nothing to lean back on but all might's pity. You exist just because some whack job decided to play God. Like Jurassic Park. I smiled. You're right, Bakugo, I am nobody, I stated. No mother, no father, no brothers or sisters. Bakugo looked beaten down. Don't you act like you're better than me. You're just like those villains deep down, I saw it in your eyes, he snapped. I know, and that's something I have to reconcile. I'll always look just like mine brother, I sighed. It's a thing I must live with, but you know nothing of strength. Strength is relying on others, strength isn't who's better, or if you're right, it's what you do with your strength that matters most and I stopped you. When I hit you I knew you were done because you held back, I yanked him forward by his ruined shirt collar. You didn't hold back on her, or Izuku, you never held back. No remorse, no regret, but I don't understand, why were you so angry? Why did you abandon it? You just yell words of hatred without meaning, without feeling, so why? I snapped. Why do you want to be a hero? Being the best won't amount to anything. It'll only be lonely, a cold, starving place where you're reaching out for equals. I snarled. Bakugo pushed off me, falling to the arena floor. You abandoned having no regrets or remorse. There was no point in being the best, there's no point to being the best, what matters is what you do with your life, and what kills me I don't care about, it's what I do that matters the most, I said. It's over, he's done. I looked up at Midnight. The winner is Tenko Shimura, she announced. I was going to go but Ibra tackled me. Tenko, stop right this in, oh you're not crazy. She sighed in relief, her hair looked so short. She hugged me tight, crying a little. I was so worried. Now we're going home, you're going to take a bath and get all the blood off you, then we're going straight to bed, she ordered, almost like a mother. I got one question, what did you tell the girls about us? I asked. Oh, well, I want a traditional wedding, a nice cake, and she leaned close to my ear, From 12 to 5 in the morning, savage, raw love making until I'm full of nothing but you. She tapped my chest. And you won't be allowed to pull out, she said. I looked at Monoma and Jurota. Help me, I mouthed. They came over and Monoma took the lead. Hey, Ibra, can we borrow him for a minute? He asked with a smile, whisking me away with Jurota keeping her busy. I sighed and Monoma sat down next to me. Well, look at us winning it all, he exclaimed. So, what's up with you and IB Dash? I want to break up with her. I spat. Monoma blinked and grabbed my shoulders. How many fingers am I holding up? He asked, holding up 3 fingers. 3, I stated. Are you insane? Are you mentally red-dead? Some weird clone thing, he asked, tapping my forehead. Look, Nito, this is serious. The more Ibra stays with me, the more she'll be in danger. That's why my dad never had a girlfriend or a wife. I need someone that doesn't baby me or mother me. I need someone who knows I have limits. I don't wanna live in another prison like that tube. I ranted, grabbing his shoulder with Black Whip covering my hands. Nito, please, I need a way to let her down easy. She's too much of a distraction and a liability. I was telling the truth, not knowing that Ibra was listening. I see, he stated. The only thing you can do is talk to her. I won't tell you how or what to say, but try to reason with H-. There's no reasoning with her. There's no budging Ibra Shiozaki. There's nothing in the entire world that could make her budge. She's the most stubborn, suffocating, overcomplicated girl in the universe. All she's done is coddle me and control me, and that marriage thing, that kid thing. That's the last straw. I continued. I was naive. I was a naive little dork to believe that everything would be okay. Then the USJ happened, now this, and I'm just... Arth. I kicked the wall and angrily stormed off to the infirmary. Ibra came out of hiding, tears running down her face. She was sobbing, but I had a feeling what Tenko said was true. She looked at me and dried her tears. It's true, isn't it? Tenko's not one to lie, she sniffed. I took out my hanky and dried her cheeks. Well, think of it this way, planning out an entire lifetime scared him senseless, even the mushy-gushy inner love stuff. Why wouldn't a guy be scared of a girl who'd plan out how long they go? I explained, Tenko's not like you or me, he's a clone. He's got a lot of shit in his brain that no amounts of holy bosom and ibby kissies can fix. So what should I do? She asked, tilting her head to the side. I sighed heavily. If you love him, and I know you do, let him go, I admitted. Tenko and you, honestly, you had red flags from day one? Ibra nodded, her lips in a hard line of neutrality. He just doesn't mix with you, I said. I don't know what happened. All I knew was that I probably F-ed it all up. They bandaged me up and alone, like I should be. I wasn't sorry. Ibra wanted too much. When I knew that our relationship was gonna crash. So I let it. C'est la vie. I sat alone somewhere else and just watched the city. I heard a few footsteps, and standing there was my brother, holding out a gaming system to me silently. He smiled and I looked down at the screen. All the bravest? I asked. Just got the Miruko DLC, he said. What's wrong? It seems to me that being a hero isn't all it's panned out to be. Just, if you're trying to get me to join your little clubhouse soiree, it won't work, I said. I just broke up with my girlfriend, and I don't know why I felt nothing. It's because it wasn't the one or something, Shigaraki answered. The doc said that you've got my brain junk, memories that make little sense but we share M. He sighed as I sent his Miruko out of bounds with my main, which was midnight. Friggin' special attack, Shigaraki growled. It's because they added stun in the patch notes, I stated. He huffed and turned off the game system, looking at me. Gotta go, I have a meeting with someone important, but you want to do this again sometime? He asked. Sure, I stated. Shigaraki walked away and I stayed on the roof. The vine in my hair wiggled into my hand. Ibra, I whispered. I closed my hand into a fist and sighed heavily. This wasn't right. I felt something for Ibra at least. I just overreacted. Yeah. I didn't just kamikaze my own future. I could salvage this. Just talk to her, Tenko, and everything will be sunshine and puppies. So I guess I gotta go save it myself. Let's load up that save file. I went home. the metal in my hand weighing me down a lot more than what I yelled indirectly at the love of my life. I went up to the door and already heard the shower going, soft singing emanating from the confines. I sighed and sunk into the couch, waiting for her to get out of the shower. I felt like I got run over by a train. My body was one big minefield of cuts and bruises. I didn't like getting hurt, but I felt gross too. I smelled like I took a sheet in a perfume factory that exploded into the smell of cannabis. I got up, the bandages on my arms falling off, and I shrugged off my shirt. I didn't feel the flaking of decay anymore. Ever since I got one for all, the feeling of it lessened. I ambled along, drifting to the shower and finding that I unlocked the door. I opened it, tired and just wanting to wash the primal stink off me. There was mist curling through the top of the curtain as I parted it gently and scooched in, seeing Ibra washing herself and seeing her peek over her shoulder at me. "Well, that didn't take long," she commented. "Shut up, I'm just gonna get my stupid bathing done," I said. "Heh, how charming," she snorted. "I know you were angry, but that doesn't mean you have to take it out on me." I looked down at my feet. "Look babe, I'm sorry. Bakugo hurt you and I lost it. I didn't mean to say the things I did, but I had a point. You gotta admit that," I said. She laughed a little. "Why yes, I'm quite stubborn, and I'm rather new to having a boyfriend, so I apologize for intimidating you. It must have been quite a shock hearing that I planned so much," she said. I pulled her close, kissing her neck gently. Decay wasn't the main force behind my quirk. Yeah, I used to disintegrate a lot of things, but this time I had full command of it like I did float. Still, I wore my gloves just in case it goes out of control. Ibra let out a tiny gasp and I felt some of her vines press me closer to her, guiding my hand to rest on her stomach as we stood under the shower head. "Oh, you're not wearing your gloves," she stammered. I could just tell she was blushing, probably thinking about how soft my hands were. "I can finally feel it," I whispered. "I can feel you with my entire hands." I felt tears sting my eyes. She was so gentle, hurting no one without regard. I could touch her without worrying that she'd be ash. Ibra let me, surrendering because she knew I was dreaming of this moment, hands ghosting over her skin, and she leaned against me. She choked down another gasp, her body tensing as her hands touched my minefield of scars and rough, decay-ridden skin. "So rough," she commented. "You don't like it, huh?" I mumbled, feeling her hand press up against the worst scar. The one on my chest from one of the other subjects at the lab. I got too curious and the DMN thing almost killed me. She nuzzled it, her hand lightly brushing against it and making me blush. She knew not to ask. I didn't want to stop. I heard her and I backed off. Sheet, sorry, I said. "But it felt good," she asked. Well, I stuttered. "Hate to break up this tender bonding moment, but we got the fest to get to, and they're not here to see you two's cute little rom-com," he said. "Save it for the bedroom," Tagaru snarled, clacking his mandibles. "Are you still hurting, Tenko?" she asked. "A little, yes," I admitted lamely, feeling her lips on my arm, Black Whip curiously tangling with her vines a little. She giggled, seeing them tangled together. "Oh, hello," she exclaimed. "Seems like this is another facet of that quirk." Yes, she touched them and it tangled around her hand. She giggled even more. "Daigoro, what the hell?" I thought. "Kiddo, this isn't me, this is the quirk. It likes her," he answered. "Dude, tap that." "I can't do that." I thought. "Beach, I saw you fight that BSTRD without fear of death. What are you so afraid of?" he asked. Ibra giggled, the little tendrils tickling her. She looked so cute. Her hair was tangled. Around them too. I don't want to mess this up with some dumb mistake. I thought, like decaying her. "Kid, you would have done that already multiple times. The only limits you have are the walls you built yourself to hide behind. That's not healthy at all." She's basically giving you bedroom eyes, letting you cuddle against her chest, and basically claiming you as her husband. Daigoro ranted. "So man the F up. You're not like that crusty dipshit. You won't hurt her, you don't even dream of hurting her. You're even using her lap as a pillow right now." "Just nothing, Ibi, let's just, get some sleep," I sighed. "One for all kills my stamina and hurts me, so I'm just gonna sleep it off." I got out, helping her out by wrapping her in a towel and setting her down on the floor. I was stronger than I looked. She was taller, and she wound some of her vines around me, picking me up and holding me close, back to my little position. Curled into a little ball, head against her heart, hair being petted, vines around me. Perfect bliss. She laid down in our bed, body still warm from the shower, new vines curling around me and hand petting my hair. A few vines scooched my head up to look at her. She kissed me. Sleep well, my little ashy cinnamon roll, she cooed. Yeah, you too, little angel, I yawned. I closed my eyes, in total bliss. I woke up nestled against her collarbone. Turns out I drool in my sleep, but she was still peacefully asleep, smiling. I felt so really sore. But hey, that comes with the level ups, right? Just being here next to her made things fade away into the backdrop of my mind. I imagine me coming home to her, a little boy or girl clinging onto her or maybe running full tilt at me. A boy with no quirk or a head full of vines. Red or green eyes. But what mattered was that they were safe. I heard a soft yawn and felt a kiss on the top of my head. Good morning, Tenko, you slept well, she said. I smiled. Yeah, nothing but imagining a little kid running around here with my hair and your eyes, black? Before decay. I explained. A son or a daughter? She asked. A son, little dude was clinging to you and it was so cute, I said. I was in awe. It made me excited but a little worried. What would it take to see that little guy become something? Ibra had a shine in her eyes, squeezing me in a vine and regular hug. A perfect set. She kissed me for a long time before pulling away. Were her vines even longer? She got up and out of bed, her vines falling into place just above her legs. I looked away and busied myself with trying not to look at my amazingly appealing girlfriend. She tied a bunch of her hair back in a bun, kinda looking like Nana for a bit. She looked over her shoulder at me. Dear, will you assist me for a moment? She asked, grinning a little. Which dress should I wear today? She pulled out a white one and a blue one. I blushed and looked away. Why are you asking me? I asked. Because I don't know which one my little ashy cinnamon bun likes more, she stated. It's very important to know that my Tenko-chan likes my outfits. He is going to be my future husband. She said that with full certainty and I knew there was no backing out, so I rolled with it. White fits you, I stated. She smiled and pulled it on, looking so happy. She was living with me now and it still felt so weird. Wouldn't her parents get a little worried? Or suspicious? I grabbed her hand. Ibra, are your parents okay with this? I asked, with you living with me? Yes, they were quite accepting of it, as were my siblings, she said. What? You have siblings? I asked, blinking. I was in shock for a bit. I've never met her siblings before, but judging by Ibra's silence, she didn't have much to say about them. She took a deep breath. In my father's religion, it is common for a man to take multiple wives, to create more and more powerful quirks. I was arranged to be shoved off to another man my father knew once I became of age, but my mother broke away and took me with her, she explained. Then I met you, but that wasn't the concern at the time. The concern is what they worshipped. What did they follow? I asked, or who did they follow? Ibra grew a little haunted. A man they called all for one or father. The crackdown on the compound happened the day my mother escaped with little baby me. I was just a newborn and my mother still has nightmares about my father and that day. She hugged me tightly. That's why I'm so protective of you, that's why I don't like seeing you with other girls, because I don't want you to leave me, she said. Ibra pulled back, tears in her eyes. Seeing you so angry, tearing yourself to shreds? I wish I could do more, she was sobbing, holding me tighter. You don't have to go at it alone, you don't have to bear the burden alone, let me carry some of it, please, she pleaded. I can't take another heartbreak if you die when I could have saved you. She broke down in my arms again. Hey, it's all right, I sighed, starting to hum a little tune, a familiar one that one scientist used to hum to help me calm down from all the shots and all the tests. She sniffled and calmed down. I noticed something earlier when I looked away. She had a number on her inner thigh, just like mine on my neck. Did the cult number the children they were going to use as sacrifices to all for one? I kissed her wet cheek with a fond smile. It's okay, Ibi, it's gone now. We survived and we're here. And whatever that BSTRD's doing with the League, I'll be there to stop him. I got the power to do it too. I saw that mark of yours, and I'm gonna avenge them all. I exclaimed. No matter what, we're here and we're alive, and the best thing we can do is keep living. I may not have a dad, or a mom, or anyone who's in my family that I can trust, but at least I got you and the Dash. She kissed me, and it felt like my world was gonna explode. Because why was she so good at it? I mean, she was crying, now she's kissing me like it's the last time she'll ever kiss me. She pulled back and smiled widely. You always know what to say, Tenko, she said. I love you more than anything. I blushed and messed with my hair a little. She took me out of our room, with me wearing an old, ratty hoodie that was bigger on me and my even baggier cargo briefs. I liked baggy clothing. It was hilarious. Here was Ibra, pure, stately, and appealing in her white dress. And here I was in clothes that looked like I just put them on from a bargain bin. I didn't care because I just didn't. Plus, it helped me lie low. It wasn't even dark-colored. Ibra seemed pretty secretive about where we were going, but when I noticed that she had a bag with her, I got a little suspicious. Hey, what's in that? I asked. It's for later. Please wait, she stated. Then where are we going? I wondered. We've been walking around for a while, and I'm starting to die a little, I huffed. Oh please, stop whining. You'll like where we're going, I promise, she exclaimed. I sighed and held her hand, seeing that there was an arcade she was making a beeline for. I smiled and we went inside. The cabinets casted everything in a multicolored glow. I walked towards a beat-em-up that I liked to play. It was a retro game called Streets of Justice. I didn't play it before, so I had my hoodie pocket full of spare change as Ibra took up the second player spot, and she wasn't too bad. I made sure she didn't use her vines though. That'd be cheating of the highest order, and I'm not too sure she's into. Whatever the hell Midnight's into. We played for a good amount. Ibra was good for her first time, seeing as I've never seen her play one. She pouted when we lost. Rigged. It's rigged. They should be ashamed. Ibra, shelve the Crusader act for a minute, babe. I cautioned. She crossed her arms and pouted. I sighed and guided her along to the cranes, my eyes dead set on the crane games. I was great at those. She looked at the little cat plushies and seemed to want one. It sort of looks like you, so soft and cuddly. She nudged me a little, making me smile and deftly win it for her. She hugged it and it was even blue. I noticed that we both were pretty hungry and I decided to take the lead. I took her to a yakisoba stand I knew about from Juzo. Thank God for Juzo. I don't know what I'd do without Dash, I thought, before getting cut off by a tap on my shoulder. Yee! I yelped, my chopsticks becoming ash in my hand. I turned and saw that there was a little kid behind me, looking shyly down at his feet. He had a little poster in his hands of our classes on it. Already seeing that Ibra had signed her little square, he seemed to be blushing. You Mr. Shimura, sir? He asked. Can you sign my poster? I smiled and took it, calming down so I wouldn't disintegrate it. So, what did ya think of the fest? I asked. It was so cool. The way you broke the arena was awesome. Then the race and the fight with that kid on fire. Well, that fight with the explosion guy against that lady was sad, the kid admitted. Yeah, and I lost my cool there. I wasn't very heroic. Don't get mad for no reason, okay? There's a lot of mean people out there, but that's a case where I had no other way. Only do it when there's no way out other than that, I said. You keep that in mind if you want to be a hero, kid. The little guy nodded, taking the poster and dashing off back towards his parents. I looked at him being lifted by his dad onto his shoulders and his mom listening intently on how cool I was and how pretty Ibra was. I sighed heavily, wondering what that felt like. Even if I had my parents around, they wouldn't care about me. One was some stupid scientist that wanted me made just to be disposed of later if I failed. Ibra ate patiently, her eyes looking at me. You're thinking again and scratching too. How many times do I have to correct that? Don't make me kiss your number to get you to stop, she warned, her vines wiggling. Oh yeah? Then why's yours on your thigh? How will you react? I teased, seeing her cheeks go beet red. I don't know, she snapped, and one day I don't want to know. I'll find it out eventually, I hinted with a smirk. I peeked at the bag and she quickly grabbed it. I saw something I never thought I'd see. A bikini. If she wasn't blushing then, she was downright lobster red by now. You know, if you wanted to go for a swim you could have told me. I thought we were going out to lunch, so why'd you bring that? I asked. It's not necessarily one, but it's for our future, and I brought it with me because I had something for you with it, she said. Which is? I asked. She blushed and clasped her hands together. Oh, sweet merciful Father, forgive me. She sighed. I sighed and she grabbed my hand. My cheeks heated up as I paid and was led back to the house. I flinched at the speed we were going. Once we got back, she went into the bathroom without a word. I sat down and waited. Did I do something wrong? I didn't make her mad, did I? Then it hit me like a megaton bombshell. That wasn't a bikini at all, it was lingerie. Nana? Daigoro? Team huddle right quick? Guys? The one time I need you too and you're floating somewhere in my head doing God knows what to my brain junk. I thought, the time to panic? I started to scratch again, breathing rapidly. I felt a vine curl around my wrist, lowering my hand. Tenko, my love, why must you do that? She asked. She was in her robe from battle training. It really suited her, but I got up. Mama, just go. I need to boy. Is it hot in here? Did ya turn on the heater? I asked. Oh, the heater? It's summer, darling, she cooed, sashaying closer. She had on her white robe, but she didn't have shoes on. She sat down, pressing her hand to my cheek, leaning in and kissing me, unwrapping her cloak and pulling me in. The feeling of warmth and safety calmed me down, her warmth and her safety. I never knew how much I needed her. I was lonely, crippled by my fear of touching something and having them torn apart in an agonizingly slow ashen spray. I stayed away from the people I loved because I was scared of hurting them. Feeling so loved and safe and warm, I realized that Ibra was my ride-or-die girlfriend. She went from a cute little friend that I jokingly called my wife to the girl I wanted to marry. She just cradled me. I kissed her on the neck, making her kiss me back on the number. I flinched a little, but she shushed me, petting my hair and kissing me again. She and I continued to kiss, and she squeezed me in a hug. I love you, she said. I love you, I love you, I love you. She whispered that in my ear and kissed me passionately. Her robe's remaining layer was all I had between me and resting fully against her warmth. I undid it and it fluttered to the couch like a sheet. She looked up at me, cupping my face between her hands. You're the most handsome man I've seen in my life, she smiled. I belong with you and only you, and even if you hurt me, I'll still love the man you are. She guided my hand to her cheek, pressing it with a smile, holding down my pinky, and she didn't flake away, or scream out in pain, or fear. She accepted it, kissing my palm. It never once went away except for now because One for All assimilated it. See? You don't have to fear it anymore, she said. It's over now, it tickles. She groaned a little as I kissed her again. The feeling of her pressed up against me never got old. She was a little nervous, her vines were hesitant. I was too, but I nuzzled her chest, looking up at her with an awestruck smile. She was appealing when she blushed like she did. Cheeks aflame as I moved, a tiny whine entered my ears calmly. Feeling the appealing flawlessness of her body under me, kissing her and feeling little jolts course through her. She was sensitive. Very sensitive. So appealing, Ibra, I said. She pulled me up, covering her face with her hands. She laid me back down, petting my hair, pushing me back up and wrapping her robe back up, blushing and sputtering. Did I take it too far? I asked. I'm just not ready, she mumbled. Don't get me wrong, I do want to have you, but it wouldn't be right. I hugged her, foreheads touching, her hands brushing my hair out of my eyes. It's all right, babe, I'll wait for as long as it takes. I picked her up and carried her to bed. She looked up at me with a little surprise glinting in her eyes. She never expected me to pick her up, huh? I laid her down and she pulled me down with her, hugging me and laughing. I noticed that Black Whip was tickling her. She started to wiggle and the vines wound around the little dubbies and pulled me on top of her, the rest tickling her as I watched her thrashing and laughing, kicking her legs gently. Ha, ha. I guess your little tentacle friends like me, she exclaimed, laughing harder. SD stay a hop. Ah, she howled, the tendrils wrapping around her. Ha, ha, oh. She calmed down. I love you so much, my sweet little Tenko, she sighed, her vines forming that blanket again, curling around me and having her arms wrapped tightly around me. A soft, rhythmic petting motion on my head, resting right where her heart was, looking up at her. I love you too, my angel, I sighed. There was nothing that would ever tear me away from her, not even my brother's decay. Not even any villain foolish enough to try. I'm hers. Now and forever. I felt really good. Just wrapped in her vines, seeing her appealing face in the morning made me feel happy. She stirred and shifted a little more, her eyes slowly opening. I smiled and hugged her. "Morning, dear," she mumbled, rubbing her eyes. I got up and went to the dresser, already pulling on my uniform. Ibra wasn't a morning person at all. Her hair tapered down to her thighs, not tied back in the slightest. She smiled, pulling off her cloak, her back to me, looking over her shoulder at me with a shy curve to her eyebrows. Do you mind?" she asked. "Not at all, carry on," I said. She got ready and went into the kitchen to get breakfast started. I followed her in there and saw her working on it, her extra vines tied back, and I joined her in working on breakfast. We both got up rather early. She was smiling, almost like the house game we played was real. I felt so happy and safe. I didn't need to worry about disintegrating a lot of things. A few of her vines wrapped around me. "Seems like you can't let me go," I said. "Because I don't want to," she said, pouting. She was so adorable and I felt Black Whip pull her against me from behind, with Daigoro snickering in my head and Nana sighing. I kissed Ibra's neck, trailing up to her jaw. Ibra giggled, turning beet red. "Honey, not now," she whined a little. I teasingly hopped a little, kissing her on the lips because she turned to face me. She giggled a little. She didn't need to lean down, but I had to stand on the tips of my toes. We continued to kiss and her vines worked on the food. She pulled back and her vines already set the table and all that. We ate and she wouldn't stop holding on to me with her vines as my WHPS intertwined with them. Inseparable, just like we always wanted to be. On our walk to school, Manga, Kikono, and Minoma joined us. They seemed pretty happy, man. We stuck it to those 1A nerds. "No one's gonna recover from that," Minoma yelled, "thanks to our resident dusty boy. Seems like you two hashed out what Cha needed with a few victory laps." He nudged me and I blushed. "Dude, no. I didn't, you know." I sputtered. He came close, but he was so nervous. Ibra declared, "I guess I'm." I sighed and kissed her on the cheek. She backed out, not that I wanted it either. "I just don't know if I can do it," I admitted. "We're young and I'm not sure if those doctors even made me able to even make a baby." I looked at Ibra, and she laced her fingers into mine. "Regardless, I'm happy with it just being us," she said before noticing something in her hair, looking surprised. "A bud," she mumbled, blushing heavily and trying to hide it. "Ugh. Does that mean something?" Kikono exclaimed. Ibra nodded and Manga made a little chibi Ibra kissing a little chibi me. In her hair was the little flower. I looked away again, getting on the train with the others to the school. The train ride over was fast, and when we got in, everyone practically tackled me with a ton of joy and just a lot of things. I carried them to victory, but I never felt right after. They seemed too dependent on me, and my old hero suit was pretty much wrecked after the USJ, so I was mostly wanting to just take it easy. But I couldn't. The more we waited to take on villains, there were always more coming out of the woodwork. I couldn't take a break when there were so many. So here I was, sitting in class, my eyes set on my notebook. What would I call myself? I don't have anything special in mind, and I can't just use my quirk. Everyone knows that I have decay, but not one for all, only Minoma and Ibra know. I sighed and slumped in my seat. I already had an internship in mind, but at the same time, what would I call myself? Not something cliché, not something with no feeling to it. I need to think. I can't just call myself Tenko. Everyone knows I'm Tenko. The Tenko. I don't know. Need help, kiddo? Nana asked. Look, the name's just a name. I get that you want to sound cool, but that shouldn't matter. Well, judging by your past, you don't have much to go off there. Daigoro sighed. I'm just a copy-pasted person meant to be a backup for a maniac. I thought, I literally have nothing. That's it. Nana chirped, the Ashen Hero, Nihil. Both decay and your background. Write it down. I wrote it down on the whiteboard and sighed heavily. Not that I didn't want the name, it was certainly unique. I cracked my neck and smiled. At the start of class, Midnight came in and some of the guys almost lost their minds aside from me. She was pretty, but Ibra was gorgeous. All right, settle down boys, she snapped. I'm just here to make sure you little darlings don't end up with a bad name. We all settled down as her eyes scanned through the list. I knew I'd be one of the last to go up. It was the fate I always had. Kendo went up first, proudly displaying her name as Battle Fist. Of course Midnight liked it. Nothing as weird as anything anyone else would come up with. Manga went up with the name of Comic Man. Something so fitting it made mine look like a joke. Mine was more of a villain name than a heroic one. Kojiro went up with a name that was oddly cute. It was the Glue Hero, Sticky. It was oddly fitting for the big guy. Setsuno went up, smiling widely, my name's the Splitting Hero, Raptor. Fits more in line with how awesome I am in combat. Yeah, she asked. Midnight nodded and she sat back down with a proud smile, looking over at me and winking. She knew exactly why I was dragging my feet with Ibra. She knew why. Ibra went up next. The bud in her hair had bloomed into a chrysanthemum. I blushed and looked down at my board. I couldn't tell anyone. I'd never get to tell anyone. I was reconsidering again because Ibra was too much of a liability. She knew my habits, what I liked, what I didn't like, my favorite foods, colors, everything. If the villains got her, they'd be able to tear me to shreds. She knew about One for All. If they get her, we're all dead. She was the perfect hostage. Ibra was my best friend, my girlfriend, and I'm too scared to even let myself hold her tight and never let her go? What kind of pathetic sheet is that? My hero name is the angelic hero, Maria. Bringing salvation to those who need it, she said. I blushed. Why is she so cute, CC, and sultry at the same time? I thought. Soon enough it was my turn. Everyone was talking about how their names were so cool while mine barely had anything cool about it. I sighed and got up there, flipping it around. I don't have anything special like everyone else. Don't have a mom or dad, or anything really. Just me. So, I'm the Ashen Hero, Nihil. I said. Oh, F off with the edgy sheet. What? You listen to those voices in your head for that sheet. That doesn't sound like the flaky little badass we know. Tagaru snapped harshly. Fucking sit right back down, think of a better name, and stop being a nihilistic piece of dog's hit. I can't help but agree, that name's CRP, Monomicide. Dude, it's not that hard, come up with something like a nickname or whatever. I searched through my scattered memories, trying to find that lady again, that nice one or the girl or someone else. All I was met with was that man. He was angry, loud, and always made decay go haywire. I looked down at my hands, seeing the flaking energy and the sparks. The Ashen Hero was good, but the other part, what the hell could the other part be? I couldn't use One for All, or even Decay because that was the title, not the name. Fine. Whatever. People are gonna find out sooner or later. All Might never keeps tabs on me anymore anyway. Who cares? They already know I'm a clone, so. The Ashen Hero, One for All. I muttered, that's my name. The Ashen Hero, One for All. I clenched the board, my hair billowing. I'm tired of keeping it a secret. If that villain's still alive that killed my grandma, he's gonna know that this is my power, not All Might's, but mine. I'm tired of keeping all of this a secret, and we've been through so much, so promise me that you won't ever tell them anything if they capture any of you. I urged. You guys are so important to me, and I trust you guys enough not to tell anyone about my power, but I'm keeping Nihil until that villain, and my clone are either behind bars or ash in the wind. Until everything is over, I'm Nihil, but you guys earned the right to know. Once those villains are gone, suddenly a sharp pain hit me in the head, like a hot spike just shot through it. I crumpled down, my power going a little wacky. Whoa. Geez. Oh. What the hell are you guys doing in my brain? We're not doing anything, sweetie. It's just, Decay just joined in. I'm in there? I thought. I woke back up in the infirmary with All Might, Grandma, and Ibra and the rest of my friends all gathered around me looking concerned. Grandma had been yelling at him non-stop. I told you, All Might, that was a stupid secret to keep. Tenko's been progressing a lot faster due to how he is. She sighed. Ibra was in the bed with me, vines wound around me protectively. The others all looked tense. Kendo, Manga, Monoma, and Tagoro all looked at All Might. You know, if you actually gave Tenko a family, maybe he would not have snapped so much. Butcha isolated him and fed his fear by doing that, Tagoro commented. Nobody gives a shit about your power, old-timer. What we give a shit about is our fearless leader almost tearing himself to shreds. The others nodded and All Might looked really caught out with his breathes down. I know I made a mistake, but... He tried to start off, but Ibra cut in. A mistake? A mistake? How is this a mistake? Tenko almost bled out, almost died being disintegrated, crippled by loneliness to the point of clinging to anyone near him and almost ritualistically wearing gloves. Leaving him alone, that's no way for anyone to live, and given that you are number one, why couldn't you just visit him from time to time? She looked at me and hugged me tightly. I couldn't visit him because he was too much of a risk. If someone found out that Tenko and All Might were living together, who's to say he wouldn't be a target? Same thing for my power, I didn't know it'd take such a toll on him, he said. So you basically set him up with a nice apartment, enough money to take care of things, and said sayonara? Ibra growled quietly, that's it? That's it? All respect for you just went out the window. I grabbed her arm, and she turned back to me. Ibra, stop, okay? Don't blame him. If I was around him, it'd be a lot worse. I'm okay with being alone. Never really liked being around people too much. I admitted, I got used to having you guys around, but I always wanted a family. Ibra smiled and hugged me tightly, her vines squeezing me too. I guess it shouldn't have been so dramatic. Ibra held my hand, her head against my shoulder, vines wound protectively around me. She was being extra vicious. Her eyes focused on me. She seemed a lot more cuddly than usual, more needy too. Every kiss was long and every time she stayed away she came right back to me. She opened the door for me and hugged me to her chest, letting me listen to her heartbeat. We were cuddling on the couch like always. I closed my eyes and just passed out. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I felt so drained. Like my stamina went to shit ever since the sports festival. I already knew which internship, hell, she was the only offer. Seems like the rabbit took a shine to my power and wanted me on board. So here I was, asleep, in the arms of the girl I loved so much. Still, what's with the flowers? They mean something, yeah? I sighed and opened my eyes, smelling something good in the air. Hearing the clanking of pots and pans. I groaned, feeling really drowsy. I guess one for all took a bigger toll than I thought. I slept well through the weekend, but now it's been a while. I got up and stretched, going to the kitchen and seeing Ibi cooking up a storm. I got behind her and hugged her, burying my face into her vines. They curled around me. Sleep well, darling? She asked. I nodded, my arms around her waist. She smiled and leaned back, kissing me on the cheek and going back to what she was doing. What are the flowers for, Ibi? Some sort of quirk evolution? I asked. She blushed, looking down at the bubbling pot. It's a dash, she mumbled. I leaned against her. Babe, I told you my secrets. Now tell me what that means, that little blossom on your pretty little head, I crooned, laying my head on her shoulder, or you won't get any kisses from me. You monster. Anyway, it's a signal, she said, a signal that... She trailed off, blinking, a signal that I want the person the flowers signify. She threaded her fingers through her vines, a vow of love to stay with that person. My mother never bloomed for my father. She looked at me. That flower must be your favorite, right? She asked. Well, I don't know, maybe it is? I wonder if the other me likes them. I said, what happens if we don't like them at all? I asked. She grew a little worried. Then it's not you, she sighed. Wait, what? What kind of bullshit is that logic? Ibra, look, I like the flowers. It makes you look prettier. Not only that, but you're a knockout. That Kaminari kid glares daggers at me every time I pass by Class 1A. You're smart, appealing, kind, good with kids, the entire package of a wife. Ah, damn it. Where'd I put that thing? I dashed off to our room as Ibra's vines handled plating and all that. I picked up a ring from somewhere when I was little, it didn't tarnish or anything, and I wanted to give it to the girl I wanted to marry. Ibra at this point would be mine. She's perfect. I got it and slipped it into my pocket. How lucky. It was in a small box of things connected to Tamura and I's past. I don't know why, but I kept the ring and that was it, but something told me the original owner would want me to have it. Besides, I think they'd like me. Or at least two of them would. The man would just be mad at me. I sighed and looked down at it. Here's to the future, you guys watching? I thought. Yeah. Nana piped up. Wait, hang on, that was my ring. Really? Man, lucky me. I thought, I'ma do it. As of tonight, Ibra's gonna be my girl forever. Hell, we used to play like we were husband and wife, so how about we handle the steps to it first? That's not you. Nana mumbled. It's happening. Shut up. Another 3 voices clamored before shutting up. Wait a minute. How many of you are in there? I thought. About 8 of us, 9 including you, Daigoro sighed. Of course, a lot of us are basically rootin' for you and her to tie the knot. I sighed and came out to see the table all set up and Ibra sitting down and waiting for me. I sat on the other side and we ate. I was waiting until the right moment, where we were both sitting close together to slip it on. I was never the type for words, actions spoke way louder. So here I was after all of dinner, watching her working in the kitchen and helping her out. Here, I slipped the ring on her finger. Better with you than it is with me. I saw her face flush and she covered it with her hands. I kissed the hand with the ring on it. She was still standing there, until I noticed her hair was covered in yellow chrysanthemums. What? I was yanked into her arms, being overwhelmed by a ton of kisses. The haze of their perfume makes my brain fog up. She couldn't stop, her vines weaving around me, pulling my body against hers. Her hands held mine and I flinched. One for all was holding it all back. Ibra smiled. This flower that adorns my hair signifies death in some cultures, but also so many other things. So take this as my vow, Tenko, that I'll never leave you. These petals that reassure to cover our marriage bed once we come of age are my promise to stay forever, she said. So, if you're certain that I'm to be your bride, then I happily accept that blunt, unromantic proposal of yours. Wow. Harsh. I went out of my way 10 years ago to find that ring and you're calling me unromantic? I sighed. Ibra huffed. Well, forgive me for thinking you were Prince Charming. Seaman. You love this dusty boy. Hell, I never wanted one for all in the first place, but if I hadn't gone with all might, I'd never had met you, I admitted. I'd be a drifter with no friends or anything other than my quirk. Ibra hugged me, carrying me to bed and laying down, curling around me and kissing me goodnight. Good night, my precious husband, she said. Yeah, night be, I sighed. We went to sleep, finally able to just rest together. Nothing is ever easy. Just like right now, of course being with someone like the rabbit hero is tough. She literally ran me down to nothing this morning, and adding she was strong enough to not only keep up with me, but destroy me regardless of strategy. Come on, hero. You gonna just lay there and let me win? Get the F back on your feet and come at me like a man, she snapped, red eyes wide and foot stomping the ring's surface. Black Whip couldn't even catch her. Power don't mean sheet if you can't be strong enough to perfect it. She snapped, grabbing me and leaning me against the ropes. I saw potential in you, but All Might had gotta been eating high off his. But when he taught Cha what the F your power is though, it loosed me to be his successor. I gasped, slamming my foot down and activating One for All again. This time it was different. I needed to go on overdrive and notch it up. Black Whip covered my arms and legs as I notched it up to 10%. Miruko grinned, getting into her stance. See? You're getting it, baby carrot. I don't give a DMN. Not anymore. All Might had his turn. I closed in, seeing her dodge, but I intercepted her kick with my leg, Black Whip shooting out and grabbing her leg, making me sling her to the mat. Pain shot through my leg and arm, blood dripping on the ring. I punched myself in the face. Live life to the fullest, and you'll end up dying happy, I snarled. But it's sheet if it's somebody else's happiness. I clashed with her again, with the two of us dueling for supremacy. No matter how much I bleed, it all goes into my future. I yelled, decay gathering in my hand but changing into one for all. Wind of destruction, I yelled, blasting Mariko back with a punch of compressed air. She dodged it but the wall wasn't so lucky, taking it and cracking. I smiled and lowered my fist, my stamina and everything else suffering. Man, guess I was right about Chusina, baby carrot. Just as crazy and reckless as me, she stood in front of me and chopped me on the head, forcing me to sit. If only you didn't need to notch it up to 10, she sighed. She started patching me up, seeing Hose's City on the TV. Sheesh, already fightin' Dutch, she huffed. My brother's out there, I said. I fell asleep, feeling me getting picked up by her and I barely knew anything else. I woke up back home, with Ibra worrying as usual. I got up and stretched, feeling sore. Are you okay, Tenko? She asked. Miss Maruko brought you back and then just left without a word. She sat on the bed and pulled me close. I just looked away, reconsidering everything. Ibra wasn't a fighter. She didn't have the soul for it. Regardless of what happened, she was just going to get hurt. Just thinking about that made me think about the sports festival. She was a liability. She'd just get me angry, make me make mistakes, might even kill me. I had to make sure I was strong enough, and that was why I pushed so hard. I couldn't stop and I wouldn't stop. I lost passion and drive just to continue fighting. Sometimes I couldn't be happy. Sometimes I had to tear myself apart and she never understood that. I felt different. Dear, what's wrong? Ibra asked. I took the ring off her finger and crushed it with decay. My eyes narrowed and I realized something in that moment. I felt nothing. I just felt the overwhelming need to just push her out and push her away from me. I didn't know why or how. All I wanted was to be alone. But I knew she never let me. I was on a path of destruction and I knew that I'd end up dead at the end of it. Nana had told me a few nights ago that I'd better hope I wake up tomorrow. I can't marry you or have kids or anything like that. I was never meant to survive outside the lab for long. I was lucky. The nature of me was that they meant me as a backup, not my own person, so I melted down and hugged her tightly. Don't let me go, I sobbed. Please? I closed my eyes, wanting to fight sleep. That number on my neck had a chip in it, and euthanize a chip. I didn't know until the day after I noticed the lump after the sports festival. I know, Tenko, I know. I fought and thrashed, her vines lashing out and trying to yank me back into her arms. Whatever this thing was wasn't Ibra. It wasn't anything I wanted to stay with. I tore my way towards the door, seeing it get further away and the vines grab tighter. I saw the door open and I decayed the vines, running hard and bashing the door wide. Suddenly the light was so blinding and I opened my eyes. Breathing hard, I looked around, gasping and huffing, seeing a hospital room. Sitting nearby was Maruko and her ears perked to attention. Huh? Tenko? Kid, don't pass out like that, Tin. I must have pushed you too hard. She sighed, grabbing my wrist and lifting my hand away from my neck. Found some little chip in your neck. They got it out just in time, but you died on the table for a minute there, she said. Still, count yourself lucky, punk, she snapped. I looked at the side table, seeing my phone, and I opened it up. 20 missed messages. Ibra was waiting for me when I came home from the hospital. She looked pale and worried. Tenko, I tried calling you and texting you but you wouldn't pick up and I was scared and worried and I cut her off with a kiss. She wrapped her arms around me tightly, hugging me and telling me I was okay. That her in that death dream wasn't the real her. Pulling back to catch our breath. Ibra smiled and touched my rough cheeks. Still, why is your neck bandaged? Did something happen? She asked. Kill chip. My creator activated it. I was about to die but lucky for me, Maruko was fast enough to get me to a hospital so I couldn't die. Who knew it was in my tattoo? I mean, pretty obvious despite that, I said, grinning. Seems like I'm lucky. Ibra sighed. Pride goeth before the fall. Count yourself lucky that it wasn't a villain that put you at risk. She hugged me again. The mellow scent of flowers trailed through the air, calming me down a bit. Dear, let's lay down and just cuddle, okay? You had a tough day and you're probably tired. She led me to our room and I leaned against her, head fuzzy and stamina waning. Just out of the hospital and already exhausted from the sparring, if you could even call it that. Sleep was nice. Just wrapped in her arms and vines, feeling safe and warm. Ibra kissed me on the forehead, still in her costume, looking like the goddess she was. I closed my eyes and fell into sheer bliss. The dream I had quickly went from peaceful to horrifying. It started out enough. All of my friends just hanging out with just no care in the world, but my head ached and One for All activated on its own, but not the usual one. This one had decay. I couldn't stop myself from tearing all of them apart, all of them. Monoma and Taguru, Juroda and Setsuna. Everyone was dying and all I did was laugh. But the only one I spared was Ibra. It etched fear on her face as I turned, realizing what I did. I was slowly resisting it. Get out of here. I'm missing Tigor. At this point, I was holding my hand back from her face. 2 more. I woke up, tearing off the sheets and breathing, gasping, checking myself and finding that I was all right. Ibra woke up alongside me, her eyes tired, a sleepy kiss aimed at my lips. She pulled me back down. Shoo. She whispered, nightmares gone. She wrapped her vines back around me with a smile, lay down and just let it out. I'm here, your angel's here. I hugged her and she undid her robe, wrapping it around me and swaddling me almost like a baby. Shoo, lovely. She whispered, listen to my heartbeat. I pressed my ear to her chest and listened, closing my eyes, feeling the calm beat, knowing that I was scared. Ibra was humming a soft lullaby. Ibra? I mewed. HM? Yes, Tenko, she asked. Can you? I mumbled, reaching up and kissing her, noticing the soft slide of her skin against mine. There was a soft gasp as she accepted my kiss. The touch of my hands were probably what she gasped about. I was hugging her, not wanting to let go. I wanted her. I wanted her and only her. I knew I was going to die, but I wanted something to fight for at least before I died. I buried my face into her chest. I love you, Ibra. I sniffled. I love you too, Tenko, she said. She petted my hair. One day, I want a life with you, she said. A house, a nice little one with no indication of status. Just a small little house with an adorable little child. No villains, no rescues, just us and our baby. She kissed me again, a blessed and wonderful life in marriage. Her eyes stared into mine. But I understand that some wishes aren't meant to be, she sighed. Ibi, I sighed. That's why I cling so desperately. I want your baby and I want to spend my life with you, but after this? After the USJ and the sports festival? I understand now that my dream will never be a reality as long as that curse is yours alone. Curse? Ichi asked. Oh shit. Nana said. Run. She's gone into don't stick your D in crazy territory. Daigoro snapped. Guys, don't worry, I've got this. I assured them. I slammed my lips into hers. Daigoro wigged out and Nana immediately went into a panic. No. No. Bad move. What if you give One for All to her? You're going to lose it just because she cried? Let's ditch her and move to Canada, he snapped. Guys, calm down. She just wants to support me. The offer to move is still on the table. I shut them all up and Ibra pulled back. It's clear now what you want, my darling, she gasped, covering her cheeks with her hands. Oh my, she peeked out. Instead of a shocked face, it was one of sheer joy. I don't want to be separated ever again. I love you always, I said. Just hold she tackled me, her vines restraining me and pinning me under her, her cloak billowing off, her hand grabbing one of my own and placing it on her heavenly bee. Her hungry kisses whining and mewling with longing. She pulled back, drool on her chin. Bless me, purify me, make me one with you, make me bear the burdens on your heart, darling. I'm yours, all yours, and I am blessed to be with you, she begged. I leaned up, taking that soft berry into my mouth. Ibra held me like a child, biting her lower lip, breathing and miming, vines billowing behind her and head thrown back a little. Ma? She ummed. Yes, her hair was growing more pretty flowers. I undid the rest of her cloak, trailing kisses down her body until I noticed that part of the cloak was stained. She was so adorable, covering herself with her hand, trying not to be too shameful. It's a sin, darling. She sighed. A sin? I don't give a DMN, Ibi, You're amazing. I don't give a CRP about sins, now move your hand, I said. She looked away. I didn't want to be forceful. She let me grab her wrist, cheeks flushed as I lowered and liked, hearing her soft whine and tasting the love my eyebrow wanted to give to me. Her vines gently pushed me closer, miming and whining coming out of her mouth as she gripped the sheets. Tenko, she arched her back, her love covering my face and the sheets. She fell back, breathing and gasping, darling. She pulled me back up and made eye contact with me, and no baby, this time. She rolled over and laid her head on the pillows, face down and vines guiding me. I'm so sorry, darling, but I cannot become a mother just yet, she sighed gently. As much as I would love a little one to cuddle, why must I insert in here? She pointed to her butt. I hesitated. I gulped. The Lufobi. Shut up, Daigoro. Eyebrow was gripping the sheets and flinching harshly. I haven't even made a move to put it in yet. She looked up at me with pleading eyes. I didn't want to hurt her. This was our first time, and what if I screw it up? You know there are. Those ways are sinful, Tenko. I want to be a mother to our baby, but I can't right now, she sighed. So tear that thing up like it's the last night you'll ever get to hold me. I wrapped my arms around her and entered, hearing her loud cry. Okay. She gasped. She laying down and miming as I pumped, feeling the soft slap of her body against mine, laying my head on her back and just hammering at her over and over, feeling her squirm and buck under me. She was lovely, taller, more appealing than any other girl. I cupped her biz with my hands, massaging them as she more. The soft perfection of her body contrasted with the rough and flaky feeling of mine, her pale skin and her flushed cheeks. We were sitting up, our pace increasing, her eyes meeting mine, and I felt her jolt. A gasp peeled out as she slowly pulled off me, shaking a little, seeing my love leaking out of her triggered something in me. It's gonna be a long night. Let's go. I saw Ibra. Her hair was in full yellow bloom, her eyes half-lidded, begging me to go on, her biz perky and her body pressed against mine, her neck marred by my bites, and her body quivered. Tenko, so rough, my sweet little husband. She muttered, I won't be able to walk straight. She a little at my love bite to her collarbone. Remember? I can't have a scene They're against my values. But Ibibi, I whined, you were saving yourself for me. I know, honey. I am on the pill, so it's okay, you can let loose inside. I just wanted both sensations to compare. I bit her neck harshly, not enough to draw blood. I'm sorry, Setsuna, and I went out to assist me with SXL items. I pulled back and she spread her legs shyly. I'm ready, she mewed, her voice sounding so adorable. One for all amped up and I entered her, feeling her jolt and flinch at my move, the warmth spread through me and her, making her shudder and wordlessly Black Whip came out and seized her, grabbing her and some tendrils wrapping around her vines too. I moved strongly, hearing her muffled breathing and miming against the pillows, her hair billowing with some petals falling off the flowers. Her velvety skin rubbed against mine, my hands dancing on her births, causing her to fall further into bliss. She through the black tendril G. I loosened it and she was gasping, letting me take her, letting me have her. Our flesh became one engine at that moment, arms wrapped around her and hands busy playing with the bearths I grew to love as a pillow. She looked up at me with those shining green eyes, my one for all, picking up the pace and making her dissolve into a miming, sighing angel. Her grip was tight and I knew she was loving it. Her kisses marked my chest, my neck, my forehead and my cheeks. When you release, kiss me on the lips? She mumbled, kiss me with those blessed lips of yours and I will be anointed as yours forever. She smiled as I felt her soft lips on my neck. Moving and just feeling on top of the world, feeling it ending soon, I kissed her deeply, finishing with her, feeling her body relax and fatigue take me over. Pulling back, staring deeply and lovingly into each other's eyes. It was perfect, my love. Just perfect, Ibra said, curling me against her chest again. Rest now, Tenko, my sweet hero. Her vines pulled up the sheets and I closed my eyes, my hair being petted by Ibra. A lull settled me down and I finally felt at peace in the arms of my angel. "Ibra, what are you doing?" I asked, waking up feeling like jelly. She was typing something on her phone and I slumped against her. "Come? Good morning, Tenko," she exclaimed, happily kissing me on the cheeks and lips. "I called Maruko. I said that you were tired." She seemed disappointed but she understood. I leaned against her chest. "Sleepy?" I sighed. "Sweetie," Ibra cooed, hugging me close against her chest. "You're so adorable when you're sleepy." She felt so warm and soft, and she looked like she didn't want to go in today. She pushed closer, smiling. "Ibi, stay home." I whimpered, "Where it's safe." "I'm, darling." She sighed. "You always lay on my chest." I kissed it gently and she gasped. I smiled. "I love you, and I'll keep saying that until I die." I said. "Of course, dear," she said, sitting down on the couch and wrapping me in vines. She hummed softly, wrapping her shawl around me too. She was so gentle, it was odd that she wanted to be a hero. She was so nurturing and caring, worrying more about our classmates and I more than herself. It worried me that her nature would get her killed. I don't want her to die. She's too good to be a hero or a mom or anything. She's just here. I clung to her, black whip tendrils wrapping around her, shaking a little as she held me. I was terrified, scared of not making that dream of hers come true. That I'd die before that. It's very likely that I would. I felt her squish me to her chest, petting my hair and letting me rest. I sighed and closed my eyes, falling asleep. I didn't really care about being a hero anymore. It wasn't a life I was interested in anymore. I mean, I'm given the power of 7 other quirks and every single one of the previous users was a hero? Come on, it's not hard to think of not becoming one. I just wanted a life that was normal. I just wanted one for all to spend more time with All Might. I just wanted to be whatever I wanted to be. I just putzed around with my gaming console, wrapped in blankets, playing Final Fantasy. I needed the break after a messed up week. The kill SWH had weakened me and my body after they removed it. I felt sick and weak. The screen blurred and I sneezed. That sneeze woke Ibra up. She immediately got her phone and called Mr. Kan. "Tenko's not feeling well. It cut his internship off by some sort of kill SWH that the villains had triggered. He's sneezing and he looks awfully pale." "Thank you," she said, kissing me on the forehead. She backed off and held me tight. I sniffled and sneezed into the crook of my arm. She moved a blanket over me, settling me down against her. She made another call, but I was too sleepy to hear it. It was probably Kendo to let her know we weren't coming in. Makes sense, right? She still held me and I just slept in her arms, finally at rest after all the CRP. When I woke up, I barely smelled something and scooched down into the blanket. I didn't feel good at all. I just wanted to sleep again. I heard Ibra come in and I curled into a little ball. I didn't feel like eating at all. She tried to throw the blanket aside. But I held on to it, looking at her like a wounded animal. She sighed and sat down. She looked like she wanted to cuddle me. She held me and I wiggled out of the covers. Ibra kissed me on the cheek. "Shoo, darling, just rest," she said. "I'll feed you something good." She took the bowl and stirred it a little, feeding it steadily to me. It was chicken noodle but I didn't exactly care. Ibra was so patient and it was adorable. She let me finish it off and I tried to get out of bed to wash it. She gently touched me and I fell back onto the bed. She left to take it to the kitchen but I tried to get out of bed, but I felt more and more weak. The vestiges were silent and I had no contact with them. It felt odd, like One for All was sick too. I shut my eyes and Ibra came back, but I didn't want her here. What if she got sick too? I don't want to see her vines grow all brown and gross. I mean, of course I shouldn't want that. She's my best friend, my angel. I don't want to get her sick. She laced a cool towel on my forehead, smiling and kissing my cheek. I looked at her and wanted to burrow myself into the covers. Ibra left, but I didn't want her to. I ended up sleeping and it was peaceful. A beach, appealing white-hot sand and everything bathed in the day's twilight. Next to me was Ibra, holding me and just keeping me close. She was older and much more mature-looking. So maybe this was another look at my future. I was right when I noticed a little boy with wavy green hair and red eyes laying in the surf and swaying his arms. The water was churning and Ibra looked a little worried. I saw some others nearby. It was my brother and some big guy with a radio. The kid looked up at them and smiled. So maybe this was a future where I saved lives and reformed my brother back to Uncle Tamura. Today would have been my mommy's birthday, right? The kid asked, looking up at him with a confused expression. You said she'd come back? Well, I don't know about that. She and your father were bad guys that wanted to hurt me and hurt Uncle Rikia, so I had to do what was good for the society. He said, don't talk about them anymore, okay? Remember what we said, right? The kid nodded. Gigantomachia? Was my daddy strong? He went berserk, young MSTR, he was insane. A dangerous terrorist with no reason to do as he had done, but he was strong for one of them. The giant rumbled. Ibra sighed and I noticed there was a heavy gash on her chest, blood leaking out. I was missing my arm and my leg, there was a gash on her throat too. We were dead, watching over our son. I felt myself just weep for him. But when he stood up, I saw me and Ibra over there, standing over him and looking at Tamura and the monster. He was glaring at them, eyes turning purple. One for all was his. Tiny and barely making his hair billow. I saw him crying, you killed my mommy and my daddy. He sniffled. At that moment, I realized that this was a future where the villains won, and somehow one for all was with him. Vines mixed with black whip tore through the air as the kid was running away, off towards the city, and the giant chased him. Tenshiro, there's nothing there for you. Tamura screamed, Demon brat. Tenshiro ran towards a convoy, getting in, and the car drove off with a blast of flames warping the road behind them. Our son was brokenly sobbing, being comforted by a big girl with fiery orange hair and steel hands. She looked at the kid with black hair in the back, trying to hold back the giant. Sheet. Mom's gonna murder me. The kid screamed, closing the back and hyperventilating, his gray eyes wide. Wait, take it easy, but... A boy with mandibles and dark green hair sighed. Ray grabbed the boy, ice and fire coating him. Shuriku, you still have your family. Look at me and Tenshiro and Tomo. Tenshiro's parents died at the start of this. My mom's so broken she can't even look at me, and Tomo's dad died last week. Not to mention Toshinori's missing, and Tenshiro just got one for all a year ago. Ray ranted, sinking back and crying. This. At that moment, I woke up back in the vestige space. A man with scars all over his body stood over me, mechanical eye looking down at me with a scowl. What you saw was my quirk, he stated. The reason for your sickness is that your body is corrupted. If you dare to not improve, your future will have your son battling impossible odds. You will call me Sasaki? Sasaki? I repeated. Was that a likely future? He nodded and looked at me, putting his hand on my shoulder. We have given you an incredible gift, and because of the clamor and noise of the others I haven't given you a proper introduction. He looked old, but strong, eyes calm, despite one being mechanical. I sighed and woke up, seeing Ibra staring at me, leaning on her hand, and I felt a little better. She wrapped her arms around me. She was staring at me, smiling. I didn't know why, but I wanted to sleep. She sighed and pulled me to her chest, resting my head against her heart. She breathed out and I nuzzled her chest. Ibra just held me for a while, silent. She was thinking, I could tell when she'd think. She leaned against me with a smile. Dear, are you feeling better? She asked. I nodded with a slight smile and she grinned. Good, that's wonderful news. She kissed me on the forehead. Your fever is gone. I sighed and buried my face back into her chest, just one more before I recovered. Come on, next time it'll be different. Just fall asleep and fade out. Ibra held me and we stayed like that. I had a lot to think about. Sasaki showed me that future for a reason. It was a bad one. I don't want my kid growing up in a hell world of the old one. So here we go. Onward.